Oh.
नमस्कार मैम।
मैम
नमस्ते मैम, सभी को नमस्ते।
नमस्कार मैम।
ज्ञान सर, गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम सर। वैभव सर, आप को होस्ट हो गए हैं। गीता मैम, आप भी को होस्ट हो गए हैं।
ओके मैम।
konnichiwa.
Welcome, Anil sir. I hope you have joined.
Yes, I am here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you. A very good afternoon to one and all. Ma Sharde ko Shat Shat Naman. I would like to take permission from Principal Ma'am to start this webinar.
Anumati hai.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And again, a very good evening from my part to all lauded dignitaries, delegates, subject experts, educators, historians, researchers, and students. I, Dr. Anita Goswami, Associate Professor History, feel honored to welcome all in this wonderful evening on behalf of Shahid Mangal Pandey, Government Girls PG College, Meerut, UP, India. This most awaited webinar, Amalgamation of Hellenistic and Indian Elements, is being organized by Department of History in collaboration with the Greek Chair, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, Chauri Chaura Shatabdi Mahotsav, Ek Bharat Shresht Bharat, Greek Embassy, Elinepa, Indo-Hellenic Research Center, New Delhi, Government of Uttar Pradesh, and Srimati Kamla Devi Vidyapeeth, Meerut. So, before proceeding, we want blessings from Goddess Saraswati. And I would like to share a video from Dr. Shalini Verma ma'am in the shape of Saraswati Vandana. तुमने प्ले किया है क्या? ठीक है, ठीक आ रहा है, अभी नहीं पता चल रहा क्योंकि मैंने भी स्क्रीन शेयर स्टार्ट कर दिया था.
पदमा आसनेमा जयति शुभवरदायिनी जयति पदमा आसनेमा जयति शुभवरदायिनी आत्मिका कल्याणे मा तुम धा 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 सा सा रे रे सा 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 रे रे मा मा रे 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 मा मा पा पा धा 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 सा जयति जय मा सरस्वती जयति जय मा सरस्वती जयति वीणा धारिणी जयति वीणा धारिणी जयति जय मा सरस्वती जयति पदमा आसनेमा जयति शुभवरदायिनी जयति पदमा आसनेमा जयति शुभवरदायिनी आत्मिका कल्याणे करमा तुम हो विपत्ति विनाशिनी जयति जय मा सरस्वती हम भटकते हैं अंधेरे में हमें माँ ज्ञान दो हम भटकते हैं अंधेरे में हमें माँ ज्ञान दो तिमिर का करनाश तू माँ फिर से जग में ज्योति ला दो जयति जय माँ सरस्वती जयति वीणा धारिणी जयति वीणा धारिणी जयति जय माँ सरस्वती
Thank you so much for Dr. Shalini Verma, ma'am. So now I would like to proceed with some highlights and some discussion about the conference we are organizing today. So dear friend, I am delighted to express my views about this conference. As here, amalgamation means a lot of fruitfulness for both civilizations. Here, we are going to discuss about the two very ancient civilizations who guided many nations for years. I would like to quote Ambassador Stavros Lykides from Greece to India in 2010 that India and Greece both have been cradle of civilization in Europe and Asia. The cultural context between India and the Greek word, occurs since remote antiquity. Such contexts in the past led to cross fertilizations, syncretism, and interactions in several spheres of human endeavor, particularly science and philosophical understanding, religion and mythology, language and literature, art and architecture, etc. While doing my research on asceticism, I found the concept that in ancient times there were so many doctrines of various sects of Greece which were parallel or similar to doctrine of Indian religious sects and philosophies like Upanishads, Neoplatonism, Gnosticism, Pythagoreanism, Manichaeism, monasticism, and many more. In this way, this amalgamation is being possible in all spheres of life. Now, if I focus on Hellenistic word, means the area which has adopted or influenced by Greek culture and without being a geographical part of Greece. Gandhara School of Art is a good archaeological evidence of this amalgamation. Now, I would like to call upon my most honorable principal, Professor Dr. Anju Singh ma'am, who is really a torchbearer of this conference and guided us with all her expertise. She is an energetic personality with wide vision for academics to stimulate all who are doing well in academics. Ma'am, please deliver your opening speech as well as welcome.
थैंक यू डॉक्टर अनीता गोस्वामी। आप सभी को मेरा नमस्कार। इतिहास एक ऐसा विषय है जिसे ना तो विज्ञान की तरह एडवांस बनाया जा सकता है और ना ही भूगोल की तरह इसकी सीमाएं परिवर्तित की जा सकती हैं। इसका तो बस अध्ययन ही किया जा सकता है, व्याख्या ही की जा सकती है, क्योंकि गुजरा हुआ वक्त कभी लौट के नहीं आता। भूतकाल में हुई सारी घटनाएं हमें उस समय के आचार व्यवहार, संघर्षों, परिणामों, रीति रिवाजों से अवगत कराती हैं, जिससे हम वर्तमान में कुछ वैसी ही परिस्थितियों को ज्यादा आसानी से सॉल्व कर पाते हैं। इतिहास से सीखकर आगे बढ़ना में अधिक कुशल और व्यवहारी बनाता है, क्योंकि जो आज हम कर रहे हैं वह कल का इतिहास बन जाएगा और कल भविष्य की पीढ़ियां हमारे बारे में जानेंगी कि हम अपने समय में कितने प्रासंगिक थे। आज हम यहाँ वर्चुअल प्लेटफॉर्म पर यूनानी भारतीय सभ्यताओं के सम्मिश्रण काल, जब भारतवर्ष के उत्तरी पश्चिमी सीमाओं पर यूनानी राज्य का प्रादुर्भाव हुआ था, में दोनों सभ्यताओं के एक दूसरे पर परस्पर प्रभावों का अध्ययन करेंगे, व्याख्या करेंगे। इस काल में भारतवर्ष की सभ्यता में कई बदलाव देखे गए थे। आज इस अंतरराष्ट्रीय सेमिनार में भारतीय यूनानी सभ्यताओं के समन्वयता पर हम विभिन्न देशों के विद्वानों के साथ चर्चा करेंगे। मैं आज इस अवसर पर वेबिनार में मुख्य अतिथि के रूप में उपस्थित प्रोफेसर दिमित्रियोस वासिलियाडीज जी का तथा विशिष्ट अतिथि प्रोफेसर ज्ञान लुइगी जी का हार्दिक स्वागत करती हूँ, अभिनंदन करती हूँ। मैं इस आभासी मंच पर उपस्थित समस्त प्रबुद्ध विद्वान, विषय विशेषज्ञ, अतिथि वक्तागण, इस वेबिनार में सहयोगी के रूप में जुड़े अन्य संगठन, यूनानी दूतावास, इंडो हेलेनिक रिसर्च सेंटर, यूनानी एलेनेवा, जवाहरलाल नेहरू विश्वविद्यालय एवं ग्रीक चेयर, प्रतिभाग करने वाले सभी डेलीगेट्स एवं विद्यार्थियों का भी स्वागत करती हूँ। इस वेबिनार के कुशलतापूर्वक संचालन हेतु वेबिनार की कोऑर्डिनेटर डॉक्टर अनीता गोस्वामी तथा आयोजन सचिव डॉक्टर राजकुमार सिंह एवं डॉक्टर अनिल कुमार सिंह को अपनी शुभकामनाएं प्रेषित करती हूँ। मैं साधुवाद देती हूँ डॉक्टर अनीता गोस्वामी को, जिनके प्रयासों से महाविद्यालय इस प्रकार के अंतर्राष्ट्रीय आयोजन संचालित कर पा रहा है। मुझे आशा ही नहीं, पूर्ण विश्वास है कि इस समन्वयकारी वेबिनार द्वारा प्रस्तुत शोध पत्र एवं विषय विशेषज्ञों के तथ्यपूर्ण विचार भारतीय यूनानी संस्कृति के नए आयामों का मार्ग प्रकाशित करेंगे। धन्यवाद। जय हिंद।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मैम, थैंक यू सो मच. Thanks a lot ma'am for your wonderful words. Now I would like to invite and welcome Dr. Anil Kumar Singh, Greek Chair, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, who will throw light on this topic more intensively on behalf of most respectable Professor Uday Prakash Arora, who has assiduously acquired the rare combination of expertise both in Indian and Greek tradition, has made pioneer efforts in the advancement of researches in Greco-Indian studies. Through his various published work, the formation of a society on Greek studies and the publication journal called Yavanika, he has been able to motivate a team of scholars both in India and abroad towards this discipline. So I request Dr. Anil Kumar Singh sir for valuable words. Before proceeding to Dr. Anil Kumar sir, I would like to present a few words about him, that Professor Anil Kumar Singh has been educated from MJP Rohilkar University, Bareilly, then CCS University, Meerut, then University of Ionia, Greece, and Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, Greece. He holds PhD, MBA, and MA degree and has attended course in modern Greek language, literature, and culture studies at prestigious Greek University. He got scholarship from ICHR, Government of India, and State Scholarship Foundation, Government of Greece, for his academic research. He is managing editor of Journal of People's History Society, Janhithyas, and associated with International Journal of Indian Society for Greek and Roman Studies, Yavanika, as an editor. He has published many research papers, articles in reputed journals, and have attended and organized many national and international seminars and conferences. He worked as principal and lecturer at Nathor Degree College, Bishnor in 2005 and 7, senior lecturer at Faridabad Institute of Technology, Faridabad, 2007 and 9, IKY postdoctoral research scholar 2009 to 2010 at University of Ionia, Greece, assistant professor at Deep Institute of Engineering and Technology and group institutions, NUH, Mewat, Haryana, and working presently as an assistant professor at the Greek Chair, School of Language, Literature, and Cultural Studies, JNU, New Delhi. He has also served JNU as coordinator of the Linguistic Empowerment Cell and National Service Camp, NSS. His latest book is Dialogue of Civilization, India and Greece, published by RN Books International, New Delhi. So I would like to welcome Dr. Anil Kumar Singh, sir. Please, sir.
बहुत धन्यवाद अनीता जी, आदरणीय प्राचार्य महोदय और सभी शिक्षक बंधु, छात्र। बहुत महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर यह संगोष्ठी आयोजित की गई है और मुझे आदरणीय प्रोफेसर यूपी अरोरा के बिहाफ पे बोलने के लिए कहा गया है कि किसी कारणवश वो हमसे नहीं जुड़ पाए हैं, तो अपने गुरु के स्थान पर बोलना अपने आप में एक सम्मान है। उसके लिए मैं आभारी हूँ अनीता जी का और आयोजकों का, जिन्होंने मुझसे ये आग्रह किया है। क्योंकि मैं ये मानता हूँ कि इंडो ग्रीक स्टडीज में या इन दो सिविलाइजेशंस के इंटरैक्शन को जितने गहराई से समझा गया और व्याख्यायित किया गया है प्रोफेसर उदय प्रकाश अरोरा द्वारा, इतना कम ही स्कॉलर्स ने किया है। विश्व भर के वह सभी स्कॉलर्स जो ग्रीक स्टडीज़ पे या इंडो ग्रीक स्टडीज़ पर काम करते हैं, उन्हें बहुत कोट करते हैं, उनसे बहुत प्रेरित होते हैं। उनके आइडियाज़ से दोनों संस्कृतियों के, दोनों सिविलाइजेशंस के रिलेशनशिप को समझने और व्याख्यायित करने का काम कई दशकों से करीब 40-45 वर्षों तक होता आया है। तो उनके बिहाफ पे 2 शब्द कह पाना भी मेरे लिए बहुत मुश्किल है। बड़े स्कॉलर हैं, गुरु हैं, और तो मेरे लिए ये एक कठिन कार्य है। यद्यपि तथापि मैं कोशिश करता हूँ कि उनके द्वारा प्रदत्त ज्ञान को मैं कुछ शब्दों में आपके सामने रख सकूं। तो जैसा कि हम जानते हैं, हम सभी परिचित हैं कि भारत और यूनान 2 ऐसी सभ्यताएं हैं जिनके ज्ञान के बिना, जिनके अध्ययन के बिना, जिनके कंपैरेटिव स्टडीज़ के बिना विश्व इतिहास को संपूर्णता में समझ पाना बहुत कठिन होगा या लगभग असंभव है। क्योंकि बहुत लंबे समय तक यही क्षेत्र, ग्रीस से लेके भारत तक का क्षेत्र, ह्यूमन सिविलाइजेशंस का प्लेग्राउंड रहा है। स्टार्टिंग विद पर्शियन एम्पायर, सबसे प्राचीन और विस्तृत अंपायर की जो डिफिनीशन होती है उसके संदर्भ में देखें तो पर्शियन एम्पायर ही था। और पर्शियन एम्पायर का एक हिस्सा जो वेस्टर्न कॉर्नर है वो ग्रीक वर्ल्ड था, और ईस्टर्न पेरिफेरी नॉर्थ वेस्ट इंडिया, जो कि अगर हम देखें तो वैदिक सिविलाइजेशन का उद्गम स्थल रहा है। उससे पहले इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन का उद्गम स्थल रहा है। तो पर्शियन एम्पायर का हिस्सा ये दोनों कोने थे। पूर्वी हिस्सा भारत और भारतीय सभ्यता, और पश्चिमी हिस्सा यूनानी सभ्यता को लिए हुए था। तो इस पर्शियन एम्पायर के कोर्ट में, स्पेशली डेरियस जेरेक्सीस के कोर्ट में, उनके दरबार में भारतीय विद्वानों का और भारतीय दूतों का, भारतीय मिलिट्री जनरल्स का, यूनानियों से मुलाकात होती थी, उनके कोर्ट में मुलाकात होती थी। यूनानी विद्वान भी पर्शियन एम्पायर के कोर्ट में सर्व करने के लिए पहुंचते थे, और इधर नॉर्थ वेस्ट फ्रंटियर से भी। और चूंकि जो ट्रेड रूट्स थे पर्शियन एम्पायर के टाइम में ही बनने शुरू हो गए थे, चूंकि 20वां या 21वां बहुत महत्वपूर्ण प्रांत था नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न प्रोविंस पर्शियन एम्पायर का, और सबसे ज़्यादा रेवेन्यू अगर पर्शियन एम्पायर को कहीं से मिलता था तो वो वह हिस्सा था जो कि भारतीय उपमहाद्वीप का हिस्सा था। करीब 20 टैलेंट गोल्ड डस्ट रेवेन्यू यहाँ से जाता था, जो कि 20 टन सोने के बराबर है। तो ये बहुत रिच एरिया था, रिचेस्ट, वन ऑफ द रिचेस्ट एरियाज ऑफ द पर्शियन एम्पायर, एंड दे वर गेटिंग लॉट ऑफ रेवेन्यू फ्रॉम हेयर। और ग्रीस एक ऐसी सिविलाइजेशन को रिप्रेजेंट करता था जहाँ से प्रचुर मात्रा में विद्वान मिलते थे। विद्वान वहाँ पहुँचते थे और कोर्ट में सर्व करते थे, स्पेशली इन द एरिया ऑफ एस्ट्रोनॉमी, फिलोसफी, हिस्ट्री, क्रॉनिकल राइटर्स एक्सेट्रा। तो यहाँ से हमारे संबंधों की शुरुआत हुई, राजनीतिक और डिप्लोमेटिक संबंधों की। लेकिन ट्रेड रूट्स के थ्रू संभवतः इससे पहले से हमारा संपर्क रहा है। हम सब जानते हैं कि जो मिनोअन सिविलाइजेशन थी या ब्रॉन्ज एज सिविलाइजेशन थी, जो कि क्रीट आइलैंड पे डेवलप हुई, और भारत में इंडस वैली सिविलाइजेशन के बीच में व्यापारिक संबंध थे, क्योंकि हमें ऐसी बहुत सारी सील्स, मोहरें वगैरह प्राप्त होती रही, जो कि अफ्रीकन पोर्ट्स पे, जो कि सेंटर था, जो कि मिडिल मैन का काम करता था, जो एरिया भारत और पश्चिम के बीच में। तो हम ये जानते हैं कि व्यापारिक संबंध तो निश्चित तौर पर भारतीय उपमहाद्वीप के या भारत के या भारतीय सभ्यता के मिनोअन काल से, ब्रॉन्ज एज से रहे। और राजनीतिक और डिप्लोमेटिक संबंध और मिलिट्री के संबंध जो है पर्शियन एम्पायर से बनने शुरू हुए, और लेटर ऑन वो डेवलप हुए अलेक्जेंडर के आने के बाद, और इंडो ग्रीक डायनेस्टी के एस्टेब्लिशमेंट के बाद जब बैक्ट्रियन एम्पायर एस्टेब्लिश हो गया, तो भारतीयों में और यूनानियों में वैवाहिक संबंध भी हुए। जैसा कि हमें मालूम है कि चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य का विवाह प्रिंसेस से हुआ, एक ग्रीक प्रिंसेस से हुआ। यद्यपि इतिहास में इसका कोई स्पष्ट साक्ष्य नहीं है, लेकिन एक वैवाहिक संबंध का साक्ष्य में मिलता है। जस्टिन इसके बारे में जिक्र करते हैं और हमें ये पता चलता है कि 500 हाथियों का उपहार दिया गया और इस विवाह में, और इस तरह से भारत और यूनान आपस में एक दूसरे के संपर्क में आए। अब वेक्ट्रियन एम्पायर के एस्टेब्लिशमेंट के बाद से हमें इंडो ग्रीक डायनेस्टी जो मिलती है, इंडो ग्रीक डायनेस्टी का जो प्रभाव है, ये जो कि पॉलिटिकली बहुत वाइब्रेंट एरिया रहा है सदियों से, उसमें जिनका शासन था वो ग्रीक्स थे। और हमें करीब 42 के आसपास क्वाइंस मिलते हैं इस एरिया में, नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न इंडिया में, डिफरेंट ग्रीक किंग्स के, और जिसमें से 30 के आसपास सत्यापित हैं, मतलब वेरीफाइड हैं कि यस दे वर किंग्स। इट्स अ बिग लिस्ट ऑफ द किंग्स। तो जहाँ करीब हम मान लेते हैं कि 40, ना 42 माने ना 30 माने, हम लगभग मान लेते हैं कि 40 शासकों का शासन, ग्रीक शासकों का शासन इस क्षेत्र में रहा। और हम ये भी जानते हैं कि ग्रीक एक ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज के तौर पे यहाँ इस्तेमाल की गई। अगर हम देखें अशोकान इंस्क्रिप्शन, तो हमें वो ब्राह्मी और खरोष्टी के अलावा ग्रीक भाषा में भी मिलते हैं। ग्रीक भाषा में उसके अभिलेख में प्राप्त होते हैं और ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज के तौर पे ये थी इसमें। और ये इसका प्रूफ इंडो ग्रीक क्वाइंस भी हैं, जो सिक्के हैं, जिनके आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस के तौर पे हमें ये पता चलता है कि यहाँ इतने राजाओं ने शासन किया, बैक्ट्रिया से लेके पूरे इस क्षेत्र पे, जो कि बाद में जो कि महाभारत वगैरह में गांधार के नाम से जाना जाता है। और गांधार आर्ट का जो इम्पैक्ट हमें मिलता है, ये ग्रीक और इंडियन सिविलाइजेशन के रिलेशनशिप से ही मिलता है। क्योंकि जब यूनान की तरफ से अलेक्जेंडर अपनी आर्मी के साथ आ रहे थे, तो आर्मी में सभी तरह के लोग थे, जिसमें स्कल्प्टर्स भी थे, फिलोसफर्स भी थे, मैप बनाने वाले भी थे, क्रॉनिकल लिखने वाले भी थे। ये सभी लोग, मतलब सैनिक तो होते ही हैं उसमें, लेकिन सैनिकों के साथ इस तरह के लोग भी रहते हैं, चलते फिरते कारवां होते हैं, चलते फिरते सिटीज होते हैं, सेनाएं। तो एक तरह से जब प्राचीन काल में सेनाएं चलती थी, तो एक शहर चलता था, एक पूरा सिस्टम चलता था, और जहां भी वो अपना पड़ाव डालते थे, शिविर डालते थे, तो कई बार ऐसा होता था कि युद्ध में हार जीत का निर्णय होने के बाद बहुत बड़ी संख्या में शिविर वहीं रह जाते थे, और लेटर ऑन वो कॉलोनीज की तरह डेवलप हो जाते थे। और हम सब ये जानते हैं कि ये कहा जाता है कि अलेक्जेंडर ने करीब 78 अलेक्जेंड्रियाज बसाए अपने पूरे इस यात्रा के दौरान। जब वो भारत की ओर चला, पर्शिया को जीतता हुआ भारत की ओर चला और वापस बेबीलोनिया पहुंचा, जहां वो उसकी मृत्यु हुई, तो उससे पहले ऐसा कहा जाता है कि 78 अलेक्जेंड्रिया उसने बसा दिए थे। और इसमें से कुछ के हमें आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस मिलते हैं, जैसे आई खानूम में पूरा एक ग्रीक शहर मिला है फ्रेंच आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट को। और आई खानूम एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट आर्कियोलॉजिकल साइट है, जहाँ से हमें अनेक ना सिर्फ टेम्पल का साक्ष्य मिलता है, ना सिर्फ थिएटर का साक्ष्य मिलता है, बल्कि अनेक क्वाइन होर्ड्स मिले हैं, जिनका प्रोफेसर ओस्मान बपराची ने पूरा अध्ययन किया है और 3 वॉल्यूम में उसको पब्लिश किया है, जिसके डिटेल्स आपको प्रोफेसर बपराची के काम में मिलते हैं। तो उससे हमें पता चलता है कि कितना व्यवस्थित साम्राज्य यहाँ इस में रहा है। तो ये स्वाभाविक है, जहाँ पर 30-40 शासकों ने शासन किया हो, ग्रीक शासकों ने शासन किया हो, तो कितना क्लोज रिलेशनशिप रहा होगा, ना सिर्फ राजनीतिक और मिलिट्री, बल्कि पीपल टू पीपल कॉन्टैक्ट, जिस तरह हम कहते हैं इंटरपर्सनल रिलेशनशिप में हम पीपल टू पीपल कॉन्टैक्ट फ्रेज इस्तेमाल करते हैं, वो कितना जबरदस्त रहा होगा। क्योंकि जो रूलिंग वर्ग है, जो सत्ता वर्ग है, जो शासक वर्ग है, निश्चित तौर पे वो कलाओं को प्रेशर देता है, वो विद्वता को प्रेशर देता है, वो इंस्टीट्यूशंस डेवलप करता है, इंस्टीट्यूशन एस्टेब्लिश करता है, और इंस्टीट्यूशंस के थ्रू जिस भी संस्कृति का वह संवाहक रहा है, या जिस भी संस्कृति को वो मानता है, उस संस्कृति को इंट्रोड्यूस करता है उस क्षेत्र में, जिस क्षेत्र में उसका शासन चल रहा होता है। और इसके जो एविडेंसेज हैं वो हमें क्वाइंस में मिलते हैं, जहाँ पे ग्रीक लैंग्वेज में इंस्क्रिप्शंस हैं, ग्रीक लैंग्वेज में विरुद्ध लिखे हुए हैं, और जो सब्जेक्ट हैं वो इंडियन है। हमारे देवी देवताओं का अंकन, कृष्ण का अंकन, बलराम का अंकन हमें मिलता है अपोलोडोटस के क्वाइन पे, है ना। तो भारतीय संस्कृति का राजनीतिक एक्सेप्टेंस और उसके बाद उसको राजनीतिक प्रश्रय देने का यूनानियों ने कार्य प्रारंभ किया जब यहाँ इंडो ग्रीक डायनेस्टी शासन कर रही थी। उन्होंने एक्सेप्टेंस मतलब ये मानना शुरू किया कि हमारा घर है, जिस तरह ग्रीस हमारा घर है उसी तरह ये। मतलब ऐसा नहीं था कि यहाँ कोलोनाइजेशन की उस तरह की प्रक्रिया शुरू हुई जो कि हमें मॉडर्न वर्ल्ड में देखने को मिलती है, जब फ्रांस, ब्रिटेन और स्पेन जैसे शक्तियों ने पूरी दुनिया को कोलोनाइज करने की तरफ कदम बढ़ाए थे। इस तरह के कोलोनाइजेशन की प्रक्रिया एंशिएंट पीरियड में जब इंडो ग्रीक्स यहाँ पर शासन कर रहे थे तो नहीं मिली, हमें दिखाई नहीं देती है। तो ये जो शासन था, ये शासन प्रो पीपुल था, ये एंटी पीपुल नहीं था, ये प्रो डेवलपमेंट था, ये एंटी डेवलपमेंट नहीं था। जो भी व्यापार हो रहा था वो व्यापार दोनों सभ्यताओं के लिए, दोनों संस्कृतियों के लिए फायदे का सौदा था, ना कि किसी एक संस्कृति के लिए फायदे का सौदा और दूसरी के लिए घाटे का सौदा। तो हमें ये ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा कि भारतीयों और यूनानियों का संपर्क ने इस क्षेत्र को हर तरह से एनरिच किया। सिल्क रूट में सबसे प्रॉफिटेबल बिजनेसेस अगर हुए तो ग्रीक्स के आने के बाद ग्रीक्स और ग्रीक्स की लेगेसी को कैरी ऑन करने वाले कुषाण काल में हुए। कुषाणों ने भी ग्रीक्स की लेगेसी को कैरी ऑन किया रखा। हमें मालूम है कि कुषाण जहां से आते थे वहां संस्कृति के तौर पर कोई बहुत स्थापित इंस्टीट्यूशंस नहीं थे। दे वर मोर और लेस ट्राइब्स, जैसा कि हमें मिलता है इतिहास में कि दे वर यूचीज एंड यूचीज वर नॉट हैविंग ए वेरी strong institutional presence of cultural aspects. So they carried on with the legacy which was produced by the Greeks, and certainly we find the establishment of temples. अब भारत में आप देखिए कि मंदिरों का आना बनना और आर्किटेक्चर डेवलप होना, मैं इसके पीछे मेरा पूरा स्कूल प्रोफेसर अरोड़ा भी और भी कई विद्वान विश्व के ये मानते हैं कि जो मंदिरों का कॉन्सेप्ट भारत में आया, एक बड़ा आर्किटेक्चरल बिल्डिंग खड़ा करना, मॉन्यूमेंट खड़ा करना ईश्वर के लिए, इसकी प्रेरणा निश्चित ही यूनान की तरफ से आई। क्योंकि हमें मालूम है कि प्राचीन काल में विशाल मंदिर बनाए जाते थे यूनान में। बिल्डिंग्स तो पर्शिया में भी बनाई जाती थी, उससे पहले मिस्र और बेबीलोन में भी हमें बड़ी बिल्डिंग्स के उदाहरण मिलते हैं। लेकिन ईश्वर की पूजा के लिए पवित्र स्थल बनाना, ये विश्व में सबसे पहले, अगर हमें उस तरह मंदिर के सेंस में देखने को मिलता है तो यूनानियों के द्वारा मिलता है। क्योंकि मिस्र के जो मंदिर थे, जो प्राचीन मिस्र की सभ्यता के मंदिर ना होकर वहां की जो ऐसी विशाल और इम्पोर्टेंट बिल्डिंग्स थी वो ज्यादातर टॉम्ब्स थे और ना कि टेम्पल्स। तो हमें ये ध्यान रखना होगा कि मंदिरों का विकास, देवी देवताओं का अंकन, देवी देवताओं का आइकोनोग्राफी का डेवलपमेंट और उसका यूज पब्लिक के लिए, ये ग्रीक्स के द्वारा ही इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट में। और जिसका जो क्लाइमैक्स है वो हमें गांधार आर्ट में देखने को मिलता है। जिस तरह की बुद्ध की मूर्तियां, ये भगवान बुद्ध की मूर्तियां ग्रीक जो आर्टिसंस थे उनके द्वारा बनाई गई इंडियन सब्जेक्ट्स को लेके, वो बेमिसाल उदाहरण है, वो परफेक्शन का, आर्ट के परफेक्शन का उदाहरण के तौर पर मिलती है। तो गांधार आर्ट तो चूंकि पूरी तरह से हम लोग जानते हैं, अच्छी तरह इससे परिचित है, सभी विद्वान गांधार आर्ट के हमारे नमूने आपको आज की तारीख में म्यूजियम्स में भी मिल जाते हैं, विश्व भर के म्यूजियम्स में मिल जाते हैं। लेकिन कुछ ऐसे एस्पेक्ट्स हैं जो कि हमें अध्ययन करने पर ही पता चलते हैं, जैसे व्यक्तिगत जीवन में यूनानी रहन सहन का उतार, केश सज्जा में, वस्त्रों में, पादुकाएं जो पहनी जाती थी, चरण पादुकाएं, उनमें, और फूड हैबिट्स में, क्विजीन्स में, है ना, उसमें भी यूनानियों का प्रभाव हमें बहुत व्यापक तौर पे देखने को मिलता है। हमें मालूम है कि चंद्रगुप्त मौर्य के कोर्ट में ग्रीक बॉडीगार्ड्स जो होती थी राजा की रक्षा के लिए, वो ग्रीक महिलाएं थी, ग्रीक सोल्जर्स थी, महिला वॉरियर्स थी। तो और उनके द्वारा कोर्ट में जो ग्रीक ड्रेसेस, हेयर स्टाइल्स, परफ्यूम्स, ये सब चीजें भी इंट्रोड्यूस की गई थी, और तो एरिस्टोक्रेसी में वो बहुत पसंद की जाती थी। अगर आप उस समय के चित्र देखें या उस समय के फ्रेस्कोस देखें जो और उनके साक्ष्य देखें, तो मैन्यूस्क्रिप्ट्स में भी कहीं कहीं चित्र मिल जाते हैं आपको प्राचीन। तो आपको ये केश सज्जा का प्रभाव भारतीयों में आसानी से दिखाई देता है। गांधार आर्ट में इसका डिपिक्शन मिलता है, जहां जहां भी भरूच में मिलता है। स्तूप के जो हमें अवशेष मिलते हैं, उनके ऊपर जो कलाओं का अंकन है, उनमें भी हमें ये प्रभाव दिखाई देता है, अप टू द टाइम ऑफ एज लेट एज the time of the establishment of or erection of the Heliodorus pillar in the center of the country, भोपाल के पास विदिशा में जो सांची के स्तूप के पास हेरोडोटस का वो हेलियोडोरस का जो पिलर है उसके। तो मेरे कहने का तात्पर्य ये है कि भारत और यूनान बहुत क्लोजली एक दूसरे से मिले जुले हैं। हम एक संयुक्त संस्कृति के तौर पे हमारी शुरुआत हुई है। भारतीय संस्कृति को पर विशद प्रभाव है यूनानियों का, और यूनान ने भी भारत से बहुत कुछ सीखा है, खासतौर से दर्शन के क्षेत्र में, एस्ट्रोलॉजी के क्षेत्र में, विज्ञान के क्षेत्र में, मैथमेटिक्स के क्षेत्र में बहुत आदान प्रदान हुआ है। इस विषय पर काफ़ी विद्वानों ने काम किया है, और इस समय भी काम जारी है। चूंकि मेरा कल एक व्याख्यान है, विस्तृत व्याख्यान है, इसी विषय पर है, तो इस बारे में मैं और विस्तार में कल बात करूँगा। प्रोफेसर अरोरा की ओर से मैं आप सबको शुभकामनाएं देता हूं इस अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सेमिनार की, और उनकी अपेक्षा है कि इस सेमिनार के रिजल्ट के तौर पर कुछ नया, कुछ महत्वपूर्ण प्रश्न और उनके उत्तर ढूंढने की कोशिश विद्वानगण करेंगे। उनकी ब्लेसिंग्स को अपने साथ रखते हुए, आप सबके साथ में बांटते हुए अपने विचारों को विराम देता हूं। नमस्कार, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Thank you so much, Anil ji. It was really wonderful to hear about various aspects of Greek and Indian culture, which have really bind up it together. So it has been wonderful. Actually, Arora sir was not feeling well, due to which I requested you to present on his behalf in this wonderful webinar. Thank you so much, Anil sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, I would welcome our most awaited guest of this webinar, who has joined us from very far, Greece, Professor Dimitrios Vasiliadis, sir. Sir, thank you for joining with us and gracing this occasion of webinar with us. आप सब लोगों को जानकर बड़ा आश्चर्य होगा कि सर हिंदी और संस्कृत दोनों के ही प्रकांड विद्वान हैं, और बनारस में रहकर काफी लंबे समय तक इन्होंने अध्ययन किया। सो फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल आई वुड लाइक टू प्रेजेंट इंट्रोडक्शन ऑफ प्रोफेसर Dimitrios Vasiliadis, sir. Professor Dimitrios Vasiliadis initiated the teaching of Hindi and Sanskrit languages at the Foreign Language Teaching Center, National and Kapodistrian University of Athens in 2005, where he continues to teach until now. Currently, he is also the president of Hellenic Indian Society for Culture and Development, HELINEPA, which was founded in 2003, the director of Athens Center for Indian and Indo-Hellenic Studies, which was founded in 2016, and the president of the Greek Indian Business Association, GIBA, which was founded in 2019. He is also a founding member of the Indo-Hellenic Friendship League, member of the Indian Society for Greek and Roman Studies, and advisory board member of the Indo-Hellenic Research Center in New Delhi, and nominated partner of the Portuguese Academy of Cultural and Artistic Heritage, Academic Lusofona do Patrimonia Culturalo Aristetico. Previously, he was a senior fellow of the Indian Council for Culture Relations and postdoctoral research association in the Department of Hindi at the Banaras Hindu University. He was also awarded ICCR Fellowship for the completion of his MA and PhD in Indian philosophy at the Banaras Hindu University. He has participated in international seminars, delivered lectures in Indian and Greek universities, authored several books on Indian studies, including the first ever Greek Hindi and Hindi Greek dictionary, and contributed research papers and articles in Greece, India, Spain, Japan, South Korea, and Canada. He served as a chairperson in the section Indian Philosophy and Philosophical Tradition in Asia and the Pacific at the 23rd World Congress of Philosophy, Athens 2013. He was a co-organizer of the 17th International Hindi Conference, which was held in Athens in 2019, and in which he was awarded the Friend of Hindi 2019 prize for his contribution to the spread of Hindi in Greece. With the capacity of the president of ALINEPA, he organized international conferences and numerous programs on Indian philosophy, art, and culture in collaboration with the Embassy of India in Athens, universities, municipalities, cultural centers, and other institutions all over Greece, as well as educational tours in India. He has also promoted the production of Indian films in Greece, Greek documentaries in India, and other research projects are on Indo-Greek theme in both countries. Sir, thank you very much for being with us. And our relation is very, very long back, sir. And I am very much delighted to welcome you on behalf of Shahid Mangal Pandey Government Girls PG College in this international webinar on amalgamation of Hellenistic and Indian elements. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Anita. Am I on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For organizing this conference? You follow also the Guruji Uday Prakash Arora teachings, and it's very good that Indo-Greek studies are increasing in India, and Anilji also is doing a great job in GNU. So it is nice that you have initiated this. And I am very glad to participate in this initiative, and I hope that we will have more. Actually, some mistake with the time, and I thought it is later, so that is why I delayed due to the difference in time. I check in internet, and they told me I am 12:30 in Greek time, but it seems that it was earlier. Some winter time and summer time they changed. So thank you. I have, I will, as usually I'm showing some slides. So can I share the PowerPoint? Is it possible? Can you permit me to share the PowerPoint?
Yes, Anita,
Yes.
make
Yes,
Professor Vasiliadis a host so that he can present.
Yes. I'm preparing this time some series of lectures on Indian, South Asian studies and history mostly, a new series of lectures here in Athens. And still I'm not host. You have to permit me to share the PowerPoint.
Okay, sir.
And I'm studying several articles and several views, so I have to prepare some new slides. I could not, I thought it will be later, so I could prepare, but whatever I have prepared, the rest.
Technical team is requested to make Professor Vasiliadis a co-host so that he could share his presentation.
Yes. So I have been in Meerut now several years ago in an international conference with a professor. Several professors were there. Also, this what is the name of the professor? Eki Narayan from Wisconsin University.
Yes,
he
sir.
wrote the Greeks.
Sir, you can do now.
Yes, let's try.
Now you are host, so you can.
Yes, yes.
Yes, Professor Eki Narayan, he was there, and this seminar was in Hasitnapur.
You were also. You were also there
with Professor Narayan, And
Yes.
Professor Vignesh Tyagi hosted this seminar in which we
Okay.
had Professor Narayan. He is now
Okay.
in that university. Yes.
So it's visible now.
Okay. You can see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Now, if this is my lecture will be limited to pre-Alexandrian times, because our connections are very vast. And if I give a lecture, last time I gave a lecture to Anilzin, and then I met the ambassador here in Athens, and he was telling me so many slides for us, the too much, we need less information. So I'm limiting the speech to pre-Alexandrian times. Of course, this topic also is very vast. So now please let me know if the slide change. Now the slide change or is the same? Did you see the same slide or the slide has changed?
Yeah, first slide, sir. First.
The first. So I have to change one moment to change
Yeah, now second,
the
sir.
process.
Now we are seeing something. No,
yes,
you keep it on minimize in the small mode, not on the full screen mode. So
no, if I change it now, I think now you will see it full.
Yes,
mode.
we are seeing.
We can see now, sir.
Now you see the second slide.
Yes.
The sources.
Yes.
So
Perfectly
here
fine,
actually. I hope it will change the slide now. Let's try. This is my sources. The first book I wrote when in 2000 in New Delhi I published with Mr. Manoharan. And in this, I had a chapter on pre-Alexandrian times, post-Alexandrian times, Galanos and modern times, some chapters. And that was my first research on this topic, which was parallel to my PhD in Benares University, which was in comparative pre-Socratic and pre-Buddhist Indian philosophies. And then most recently, I wrote also this book, The Greeks and Buddhism, which is also comes to especially in the context between Greeks and Buddhism. These are from my side, my sources I have, and of course, several papers, research papers and articles published in different journals, and some of them are online. And now, if change the picture or is the same? Did you see the same picture or change? Hello? Anita?
Change, sir. Change हो गई है picture.
Change. Okay. Okay.
This is sources.
Okay. This is from my side. This is now you see in the picture, Professor U.P. Arora and Professor Bharat Gupta. Okay, you see them?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So these are the two Indian scholars. There are several also Indian scholars who have worked on Indo-Greek studies, but I think these are the two pioneers and have done a lot of extensive research on Indo-Greek studies and several books. There are also resources from foreign scholars like American scholars and British scholars, but I'm focusing on Greek and Indian scholars. So this is the main Indian scholars. There are also other Indian scholars, especially from South India, who have worked on some comparisons in music, in drama, and such other topics. Here are two books of U.P. Arora, Greeks on India, from Scylax to Aristoteles. He wrote also another, the continuation of this series, and also on Indian mythology, where you can find a lot of comparative in mythological aspects, because there are many areas where we can discuss and we can examine the pre-Alexandrian times. Mythology is one of the major topics, especially the comparison between the gods and the myths, common elements, worship of common elements, and several topics are there. Customs also, which of the social customs are there. This is a good book to go through. And here also we have Anil Kumar also wrote recently a book on India and Greece. Is the type of U.P. Arora. Now he is in GNU teaching the Greek studies. And here we have also from Bharat Gupta a very good work on comparison between the Greek and the Indian drama. So this is just the most recommended sources from me for those who want to go deeper and to study in more details these topics. And from Greek also, we have Professor Yankos Andreadis, who has also done research on drama, and he presented also a dramatic play with Iliad and Ramayana in 1991. He was the first professor of the Greek chair in Jawaharlal Nehru University. Now I'm coming to my speech after the sources. Here we see Greece and India today, very distant countries. And we think that in ancient times, they could not have any contacts. I have at the same time is somebody who makes the people to join, who apply for, or I have to join them. They apply always for entering the meeting. So we think that I because I'm a host, there is a co-host also who accepts the people to enter in the meeting, or I have to accept all. Anita, who is accepting? They are applying to enter, so I have to accept them. These people who are entering the meeting.
We will manage, sir. You go ahead.
You can manage. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we have the two countries very distant, and we think that in ancient times they could not have any contact. But then we have so many similarities, like especially language, in literature, in Pachatantra, for example, and in Aesop myths in Greece. So very ancient connections, which shows that there was some kind of connection between the people. Okay, they were not named at that time India and Greece. These are more new names. But the whole area, somehow, this area was connected with trade, with transmigration of people, sometimes military campaigns. So some contacts, in my opinion, was there in very early times, even in prehistoric times. And this we can see mostly in Indo-Aryan languages, Indo-European languages, these families, where we can see a lot of similarities in the languages. Like, for example, we have many Greek and Sanskrit same names, like Matri, Mitir in Greek, Petri, Peter in Greek. So we have like this, many also grammatical structure of the language is similar between Sanskrit and ancient Greek. So there is some similarity which made scholars to think that there is some connection between the two peoples, even a racial connection, this not only linguistic connection. And this, you can see here also the Indo-Aryan and Indo-Iranian and Indo-Aryan languages, which seems to have separated sometime. In my theories, some conflict between the two people, and they separated and they went inside in India, the Sanskrit-speaking people who separated from Zeta Vesta and the earliest Persian languages. And so there was not much connection between the two peoples. So when in Europe, the European scholars started studying the Sanskrit, they established here the Royal Asiatic Society in Calcutta, and they started studying the Sanskrit and the Indian literature. They found a lot of similarities between Greek and Sanskrit. And they thought that these similarities must be some connection, though these similarities were observed even earlier from priests, Christian priests who traveled to India, and they have noticed that these similarities with Latin and Greek and Sanskrit, but nobody had developed this Indo-European theory, which came here with Sir William Jones. They were thinking that there's some connection between the people, and immigrations have caused this connection in the language. So Sir William Jones was a linguist and judge also in Calcutta. And he was in the third anniversary discourse in 1786. He suggested that the Sanskrit, Greek, and Latin are so common, so similar, that we have to think that there is a common root, a common source, and that these people came from a common source. He developed this Indo-European theory, which you can see here is his whole statement in speaking to have sprung from some common source. Okay, this theory developed from the British people. It had a political also objective, because they wanted to say to the Brahmins in India that you also came from outside, you are also invaders. In ancient times, you came from somewhere, from Europe. Where is the source? Several theories were developed, like in Ukraine or in Lithuania. Some people even suggested Mongolia, and Lokapriya Tilak, he said that is the Arctic theory of the Indo-European theories, that is in North Pole. And so such theories developed, that there was a common race, pro-Indo-European race of people who migrated. One part went to Greece and one part came to India. So we explain these similarities with this way. This was served the political interests of the British, who wanted to show that and to have the white Brahmins from their side and say, you are also foreigners, you are invaders like us, so you don't complain too much. And this theory came also accepted also by Germans, who also developed Indological studies, and they had also their own interest to develop these contacts between the Aryan race, which Hitler, the Aryan race, he developed, and he also had similar political objectives. So the European academics accepted this theory mostly. And I remember when I came to Meerut and I gave my speech there in the seminar, the Indians Indian archaeologists and historians wanted to rewrite the history and say this is a corrupt presentation of our history. Actually, Sanskrit is a local language. It is not came from outside, and so the Europeans have exploited it. So there was some reaction from the Indian scholars, and they wanted to rewrite the history, and they claimed that this is the origin of the Sanskrit language is from India. When we say India, not India as we understand it today with the political boundaries, but India means the Indian Peninsula, where we have the reference from the Vedic rivers and all this, Saraswati and Sidhu and all these rivers. So there is some, the linguists continue to have some arguments, and I think the main theory, I have attended some recent theories, the main, let me go back. The most popular, I think, amongst the linguists nowadays story is that the Indo-European languages started somewhere here in Caspian Sea, and one branch came to India and the other went to Europe somehow like this. This is what they believe, according to the recent researches, that is the source of the Indo-European languages, which connected our people. And now I'm coming to also from the Greek side. We have some historian and Indologist here, Marioris. He claimed that actually the other side, he went from the other side, that the Sanskrit and the Indian civilization came from Greece, and that Greece was the ancient time from where the civilization traveled to India. And from India, we have also Indian scholars claim that it came from India, and some other theories also speaking for South France and some other places. Different theories have developed to interpret this connection between the languages. And but now, historically speaking, we can see that ancient Greece, it was not as we understand it today. It was mostly a lot of colonies in many areas in all Mediterranean, also Black Sea. And it is we have quite good also sources to make the hypothesis that some Greek colonies were also in Northeast India, that is in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in this area, especially with Kyrus. When Kyrus the Great occupied, he made the empire, the Persian Empire. He occupied the first satrapy. He divided his country in 20 satrapies. The first satrapy was the Ionia Ionia is the Greek cities in Minor Russia. And the 20th satrapy was India. Okay, when he was speaking for India, he was referring to Indus River. And this area, somehow they connect the two civilizations, the Greek civilization and the Indian civilization. And through this, some interaction took place, intermediate, not directly, but through the Persians, in the Persians' capital in Persepolis. Here, the Greek writers and Greek thinkers were meeting with Indian thinkers, and so some exchange of ideas was taking place in this area. So here also we have the first reference to India. The name India comes from the Sindhu River. Sindhu in Sanskrit is the which in Persian becomes Hindu, and in Greek becomes Hindu. So the Greeks came to name the whole country India, but when we were speaking for India, they were speaking for the northwest India, to the Sindhu, that area. They knew that area. So this also some scholars, like from Pakistan mostly, they claim that the ancient India is Pakistan, is not India, because when the Greeks were speaking for India, they were speaking for our area. They were not speaking India. And the term India is not Indian, because actually the term India is a foreign term used by the Greeks, and is in Indian scripts we meet like Bharat or Arya Desha. We don't meet in Indian scriptures the term India, which was accepted after the independence as a continuation of the British title in British, but also in Hindi is known as Bharat. So there was such a conflict between also this Jinnah, the first president of Pakistan. He wanted to say that the term India should not be used by the Indians. But this also is not correct, because this is very early reference, very early reference. We have the term India is used in later times, like after Megasthenes, when Megasthenes comes to, he speaks for India for the whole empire, and then after all the Greeks, Indo-Greek kingdoms, and later with Lucian and other historians, they speak the whole Indian peninsula is named, takes the same name. And even further, the term India is used by other countries also, like we have West Indians, and so the British continue to use the title of India, and this came as a continuation to the present day. So as a foreign term, not as an Indian term, because the Indian term is Bharat. So this is just a reference to the name of India, how it was used by the Greeks, and now the whole the country is named India in English. The English took it from the Greeks. So before this historical context, I would like to go to the prehistoric context, and this we don't have a prehistoric context. Mostly we have some stories from mythology. And these myths maybe suggest some connection between the two peoples. One myth is the campaign of Dionysus, Lord Dionysus, to India, who is supposed to be about 6,000 years before Alexander the Great. And he invaded India, and he also, Megasthenes mentioned him in Indica, that he was, even the Indians were believing that Dionysus came from West, and he brought the culture, like the wine and dance and all these customs with him to the Indians. And from Indian side, we have Dionysus as he spreads the civilization all over the world from east to west. So somehow this story is there, which might suggest some spread of the Greek culture through Dionysus. This story became more popular also together with the other story. There is the story of Hercules. Hercules also, suppose he also has traveled to India, and he's, according to the Greek sources, his daughter, in the name of his daughter, he named the Pataliputra, this is Patna today. Okay, he occupied also the India, and he spread also the Greek culture to the Indian peninsula. So these two earlier Greek mythological personalities are bringing the contact between the Greek and the Indian world, mostly as carriers of the civilization coming to India. And these stories become very popular in Alexandrian times. When Alexander the Great invades, he also, the historians want to bring these stories up, that Alexander is not the first who comes to India, but before him, other great personalities came, like Dionysus and Hercules, and Alexander is just a continuation of these people. And when he arrives there in, for example, in Nisa, outside from Afghanistan, in Kabul, he meets some people who claim that they're descendants of the army of Dionysus, who remained there. And they were performing some Vedic practices, which suggested that they are also they are Greeks. And this story with Akufis, that is the leader of the city, approached Alexander and told him, "We are the descendants of Dionysus. Don't disturb us." And Dionysus was convinced that they are Greeks, and Alexander convinced. So it seems this story, to me, it shows that some Greek community was there in northwest India, because this we have also the hypothesis that several Greeks who were revolting in Minor Asia, in Ionia, they were revolting against the Persians. The Persians used to take them and remove them and place them in the Far East. So these Greeks who went to the Far East, maybe they established there a colony or a trade colony, and they had some contacts with India. And this also, we can see it from the Indian side, such a reference to such a Greek community which might have been there before Alexander the Great. The story of Hercules is also common to Babylon, and in Minor Asia, there we can see similar myths. It seems that this story, also other stories like Kronos and Zeus with the Greek theogony, we can see similarities in Babylon and in this area with the stories. These are two sources, two books which speak about the invasion of Dionysus and Hercules. One is Indica of Megasthenes, the fragments of Indica of Megasthenes, and the other is Polyenos Strategimata, which gives further details about the military campaigns of these two heroes who came earlier to India. This is written in Roman times to describe all the great invaders and military campaigns. Polyenos wrote in his book. Now I come from the Indian side. In Indian side, about Greeks in prehistoric times, Yavanas, Greeks are known as Yavanas in Sanskrit, which comes from Ionia. This is the area in Iona in Persian, and Iona comes as Yavana. Also, Yavanas are known, the Greeks in Israel. And I think some connection is there. Maybe it might be because Sanskrit, both in Sanskrit and in Hebrew, the Greeks are known as Yavanas. So also in Pali languages are known as Yonas, Yonakas, various names. So we don't have a reference in Vedic literature about the Yavanas. There are no reference to Yavanas in Vedic literature, but in later texts, like in Puranas, we find reference to Yavanas, which the reference, the beginner, the father of the Yavanas, supposed to be Turvasu. And in Sanskrit, Turvasu is known there as Turvasa, is the son of Yayati, a Vedic king, one of the sons, and brother of Yadu, which from Yadu comes the Yadavas, the Krishna lineage. So some connection is there. I remember when I was living in Varanasi, my landlord was a Yadava. So I was telling him we are brothers because we are Yavanas and Yadavas and we come from the same lineage. And there are such a reference in Puranas, where they speak that Turvasa is the father of the Yavanas and he came from the west, because when he divided the country, he he expelled them actually when they did not give him the youth. If you know the story of Yayati, he asked her to give his sons to give him the youth to become again young, and nobody wanted to give except he punished them by sending them far away. So Turvasa went to the west, and then he invaded again, and he came to India, and so supposed to be the invasion of the Yavanas. So we have this reference in later texts, and maybe there are some connection with the Vedic literature, but we don't have it in Vedic literature about the Yavanas. It seems that it might be lost, the text, or it is a later development. It changed the titles in Puranas when the Yavanas became known to India. And we have also here we have another Vedic hymn about the Battle of the 10 Kings, where there is this book of the Rig Veda, the historical approach, and here there are also the references in the battle, which is a previous, is before Mahabharata. This is the text which later develops Mahabharata. And here we have a reference to Hellenas, which they are expelled from India after losing the war, and supposed to be the Greeks. Some theories there that these are the Greeks who left from India and they went to Greece. So after losing the battle in the Vedic times. Now, from the Indian side, the theory is that this Sanskrit and says the source of civilization is in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. This is Sindhu Valley civilization, that the civilization started here. This is the source, and the Sindhu River. And this is the whole area. We have found many cities where there is this civilization, prehistoric civilization in Asian India. And it was a great civilization, which might have some contacts, especially with Babylon that time, because we see similarities also in ceramics and some statues. And here you can see, now it is in Pakistan, but some cities are also in Rajasthan, and reach up to Delhi, this civilization in archaeology. And this is the say how it was looking that time, that city with 2 stores houses. And you can see also similarities with Krita, the Minoan civilization, which is a professor here, Professor Kostis, he wrote a book on comparing the Minoan and Harappa civilization. And here you can see also the similarities. This is in Leh, in Ladakh, which looks like Minoan house in the palace in Leh. And the worship of bull also in Krita and in Harappa civilization. And the bull here in Sindhu Valley civilization. And here also this looks quite, some Greek symbols are here. The dress and the symbols are quite similar to the Greeks. So it seems that some contact was there. And here we can see the Mitanni tablets. You know, the Mitanni tablets, when we found the Mitanni tablets, there is reference to Vedic gods and suggest that the Vedic civilization was in Babylon and in this Mitanni kingdom. And here we have found also some Minoan stamps, which shows that even the Cretans used to come there and to exchange trade. And it might have been a direct contact between the Indians, say the Aryans, the Vedic civilization and the Greek civilization, very early contact and some influence, but mostly also through the Babylonians. Some interaction was there. These Mitanni tablets, the Indo-European theory might claim that it is before the arrival to India. This is the development of the Vedic gods before coming to India. But some other people suggest that it's from India spreading to the West. And here we can see now with the expansion of the Persian Empire after Kyrus, Darius, and Xerxes, all this, they expand and they occupy the whole area. Even India here becomes the 20th satrapy. And Persepolis is the meeting of the Greeks and the Indians. And we have 4 writers who write about the Greek writers, pre-Alexandrians. Okay, we have also some references, smaller references, like in drama, in Aeschylus, he mentions India, the Indian girls. But stories about India, we have from Scylax of Caryadna, which is 6th, 5th century. This is the earliest reference. We have lost the book. Some fragments are saved in other later works, like Aristotle, about his writings. Ekateos of Miletos and Ctesias of Cnidos and Herodotus, the father of history. They write about India, but when they speak about India, as I said, they speak about Indus, the Sindhu River, that area. They give us the first, and all they write, when they write, they mention, they name the books Indica. Indica in Greek means about India, like Persica. Persica means about Persia. In these books, they're not so much historical. There is a lot of myth and mythology, like this dog-headed people. They live there, and such miraculous personalities, and the rivers with milk and honey and such. It is a distant land of imagination. And they write about India, that is a country with miracles and also very wealthy, and such a reference are there. You can see also again with this dog people. These are from the mythology. This is stories for the Greek people to show that, like today we speak for alien civilizations. They are very distant for them. So they describe all these stories. Also, we have these gold digging ads, which also continues this story even after Alexander the Great, with Megasthenes and other writers continue to mention these stories, which they live there and they dig the gold, and they produce a lot of gold, because actually India was giving the most of the gold to the Persian Empire. Now we have also from Herodotus some references for some such races there in about the Indians, some Indian races, which they were practicing a kind of voluntary death. That is, we call it Salekana in Jainism. It seems that Jainism was the very early religion, very pre-Alexandrian also, very ancient, from Rishabh Jain. So it is before Tirthankara also, before the Mahavira. Even Mahavira is before Alexander, but even so it's very ancient. And it also developed in that area, because Mahavira is in Bihar, but this Rishabh Jain is supposed to be born in today Pakistan. And this Herodotus speaks about this people who were dying willingly, going and dying. When they become old, they go far from the village and they stay alone, they die quietly. So this is the practice which is we know the Jains are practicing, the Salekana, welcoming death. So such an early reference we find in Herodotus. Also in Herodotus, we find some reference for the vegetarian people who are never cultivating the land. They don't take out the roots. They eat the food. So which is also a practice of Jains. And also he refers to cannibals, to a type of cannibals who are eating the dead parents. They eat the dead parents, other race, not the same people, which also we find it in some say some sectas, religious sectas like the Kapalikas, Agoras, and in India later, which now have been extinguished now, but in earlier times, like in Mahabharata, we find such reference for such sects. Also, Herodotus speaks for a race of Indians which was never occupied by the Persians. I don't know which is these Indians. Might be he might have some knowledge from some Indian races who are independent, far away from Sindhu River. Maybe some coming from the sea. I don't know from where they were coming, but he says that there are some Indians far away, living far away, who are not subject to the Persians. So this is a reference fragment from Herodotus, which says that shows that his knowledge about India was very limited, and it goes up to the Sindhu River, up to the Hindu River, because after that there is a desert where there is no, we don't know if there are people anymore. So he was thinking that the Indus River is the end of the world, and this was the knowledge of the Greeks about the Far East. They had no knowledge before Alexander for what is happening in the Gangetic Valley, in the main peninsula of India. Okay, their knowledge was very limited. And also we see in Ramayana, for example, when the Rama, they sent the monkeys to search for Sita, and they say, okay, you go, Sugrila, what is the name of the leader of the monkeys? He says, one monkey will go to the west, one will go to south, one will go to the east, one to the north, and search and find the Sita. And Hanuman went to the south and he found her. But the monkey who went to the west, and they give him instructions, and they tell him, you go to the west and search there, you will reach to the mountain which is known as Meru, the holy mountain, which I also mentioned before. The Meru was the place where Alexander arrived, and he met Akufis, who was claiming Meru means Meru in leg, in Greek means leg, and Dionysus was born from the leg of Zeus. So that is the name of the holy mountain. That is the holy mountain which the Greeks there tell to Alexander that we are Greeks, we are descendants of and we name the mountain Meru. So in Ramayana also we have the same reference to the Meru mountain, which also is well known. Also in Meru mountain is also when the Devas and the Asuras come together to bring out the Amrita, and they move the Meru mountain with Sesa. And also in Buddhism, Meru mountain is there. So it seems that this Meru mountain is very famous in ancient times. And that area is also the Indians speak in Ramayana, that you can go up to the Meru mountain, and at the top of the Meru mountain lives one wise man, and he will tell you what is happening. After that, the sun sets, and we don't know what is happening after that. That is the end of the world. So for the Indians also, the end of the world was, say, somehow there, Afghanistan, and from the Greeks also, the end of the world was the Sindhu River. So some similarity, it shows that there was no connection between the Greeks and the Indians. They did not have, we don't have such a reference to speak about the Greeks as Greeks or the Indians as Indians in early literature. Yes, here is also the fragments for the cultivation, which I spoke for Herodotus. Okay, for the cultivation of the food, which living upon herbs. Okay, this they do not. We know that the Jains, they don't even take out potatoes and carrots. They don't eat because they think that they destroy these vegetables. They kill the vegetables. They have also soul, so we should not kill anything. And also the willingness of death. These are the fragments from Herodotus for Salekana and asceticism. And some other references about conducts we have in earlier times that some spoke with the gymnosophists and Indian magicians, disciples of Plato. We are not very sure if they are original text, but such a reference are there. It seems some fame about the gymnosophist comes to the Greeks before Alexander. And this story of meeting of Socrates with an Indian sage becomes very popular in Alexandrian times, where an Indian goes to Athens and he meets the Socrates and they discuss about philosophy. And the Indian asks Socrates, what is the subject of your philosophy? He says, I'm studying a man. And then the Indian laughed. Socrates asked him, why you laugh? Because he says, you cannot know men if you don't know God. And this shows the major difference between Greek and Indian philosophy. The Greek philosophy focused on men, and while the Indian philosophy focused on the divine. So this is but this story also becomes popular from, is attributed to Aristophanes, who is a companion to Alexander, that is in Alexandrian times also, a real historical event. Here you can see the maps, how the Greeks were looking at the world, which I said before, they had a limited understanding of the world. This is Hekateos. He is the first map. He makes the first map. The whole Earth is a cycle around, and Greece is in the center of the world, and around the world is the ocean. Okay, the ocean. And if you see here, this is the Indus River. The end of the world, the Indus River. And here is also Herodotus. He has similar map, the same map, and he also, this is the Indus River. You can see India is the Indus River here. The world ends here. Bactria, Parthia, and all this. This is the understanding of the Greeks in pre-Alexandrian times. And here is later on in Eratosthenes. This is, you can see India now is here, Pataliputra is here, Patna, so Bactria. So they have a bigger understanding, and they name the whole peninsula India now. You can see even from Megasthenes and after all, the whole peninsula will be named India. And this is Taporbani, this is Sri Lanka. Now, such similarities, there are some during the 19th century, European Indologists, they studied the similarities between Pythagoras and India, and they wrote several articles, research that Pythagoras went to India and he got the philosophy from there because he has many similarities to the Indian philosophy. And such similarities are like abstinence from blood sacrifice, vegetarianism, this katharmi, that is purifying practices, purification, living in community like ashrams. Also, the Pythagoreans were living in communities. The oral tradition, belief in rebirth, that the souls have animals, and the animals have souls. So all these common things made some scholars to believe that to that time in 19th century that Pythagoras might have got influence from Indian philosophy. But it seems that we don't have any, as I have shown you, Pythagoras is much earlier, before Herodotus, and even Herodotus did not know India, how Pythagoras could have gone there. So there is mostly that there is, he traveled a lot, but there are also in Greece such philosophies like the Orphic philosophy, the Orphic and the Dionysian philosophy, which have similar beliefs. It seems that he mostly was influenced from them. But this Orphic philosophy also comes from Thraci, and Thracians might have been also interconnecting East and West somehow and bringing some common beliefs. The first Greek philosopher who actually went to India, and he is Democritus, and he was from Avdira. Avdira is now in North Greece, near my birthplace. And he traveled, that was occupied by the Persians, this area, and he traveled extensively in all Persian Empire, and he went up to the India, and he met with the gymnosophist, that the naked sun. We have such a reference in the text where he speaks about his meetings and his discussions with the gymnosophist. And we might suggest that there is some similarity also in the atomic theory, because the Jains also believe in the atomic theory. So, and it might have been some influence in this, in the development of this theory. Also, early Buddhism has some atomic theories. Now, from India, the first Indian reference to the Greeks, historical reference, this is attributed to Buddha. Lord Buddha is supposed to have, in Asalayana Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya, we have this fragment where Lord Buddha discusses with a young Brahmin, Asalayana, about the caste system. And in this text, which might be later, because I don't think Buddha had to use this reference, it's very early to speak about the Yavanas, the Yonas, here the Yonas, is in Pali, the Greeks, that it might be later, we have some later texts attributed to Buddha. So he says that, you know, the Yona Ratam, that is in Sanskrit Yona Rashtra, the country of the Yonas, and the Kamboja Ratam, the country of the Kambojas. There are no caste systems and only masters and slaves, and one master can become a slave and a slave can become a master. And Asalayana replies, yes, sir, I know in the country of the Yonas and Kambojas there are slaves and masters, and a master can become a slave and a slave can become a master. And this reference from, if we think about this, it shows that there was some democratic system, where, because in democratic system, a leader can lose his power and he can become a common man, and a common man can become a king. So this was very not common to Indians, because the Indians had the caste system, and one king was always a king and a slave was always a slave. So, and this is from the context. But if we think now for the place, how Buddha could speak about the Yonas as an example when he was living in the Gangetic Valley. The Yonas were very far; they were in Ionian Sea in Greece. So it might have been a reference to that I was saying before, to some colony, Greek colony in northwest India, which were Yonas, and they were known to Indians because also they were interfering. We have reference to these Yonas in Mahabharata, for example. In Mahabharata, maybe Mahabharata is later, but if we accept that Mahabharata is, okay, it takes a lot of time to develop Mahabharata. It takes maybe from the 5th century AD to 5th century BC to 4th century AD. It develops in a very long time. But the reference to the Yavanas also in Mahabharata, where they take place from the side of the Kauravas, and they fight, and they are, we have such a reference, like good references and bad references, like Sarvagya Yavataha. The Yavanas are omniscient. They know everything because they were famous for the contribution to the sciences and all the knowledges. So if there is a reference to the Greek kingdom in northwest India, it might be possible to be original. Otherwise, it will be a later attribution to the Buddha. And also from Aristotle has a similar fragment where he speaks about the Indians. And this is a fragment from Skylax, which is the first writer, the Greek writer who wrote about India. And he also mentions the same observation that the customs, the Indians, they have like the political system, they have the caste system, and they don't change the rulers. So both sides, the Greek side and the Indian side, the first observations are on the caste system, the social system. This is what they observe from both sides. The Greeks observe the Indian society, and the Indians observe the Greek society, how it functions. And here is a fragment from Sri Lanka. When I was studying in BHU, Benares University, I had some friends, monks from Sri Lanka, who told me, that time I was doing the research, they told me that in Sri Lanka, they have this hymn, every morning they pray, and they say that in this hymn, even Buddha went to the city of the Yonakas, he went to the city of the Yavanas, which suggests that some travel of Buddha to go to the city of Yonakas might be later, because we know later that, especially after Menander, when Menander came inside in India and he established Greek cities, maybe, and the Greeks became Buddhists. Most of the Greeks who were inside in the Indian peninsula became Buddhists, and such reference might be later that Buddha went to the city of the Yonakas, meaning not Buddha himself, the Gautama Buddha, but in later times, some Buddhists went there. Another early reference to the Greeks is from grammarian Panini, who brings as an example the Yavanani, the word Yavanani. Panini also is, his date is not sure. Some people say he's pro-Alexandrian, some people they say he's after Alexandrian. Most of the Indian scholars, they believe that he's pre-Alexandrian, 4th century AD. And when I ask such scholars to tell me how you explain the reference to Yavanani, if he's pre-Alexandrian, how he knows the Yavanas, how he knows the Greeks. So the Indians also support the view that he is speaking about a Greek colony, not the Yavanas in Ionia. Yes, similarly like the Buddha. The references. Panini also is born in present day, say, in Peshawar, now is Pakistan, northwest India. And he had some contacts with the Persians and the other, maybe if there were Greek colonies there, he might have some contacts with the Greeks. And this is also the first script we have, the first Indian script is Kharoshthi. And Kharoshthi might have been influenced.
Sir, your mic has been muted. Please unmute. I think it's okay now, sir. Sir, your voice is not coming.
Hello.
It's okay now, sir. You can continue.
Χάλασε το τέτοιο. Ποιο είναι εδώ? Hello.
Yes, continue, please. Professor Basilides, your voice is coming now.
Για βάλε. Δεν μ' ακούνε. Hello.
Sir, you
Yes.
are audible. Please go ahead, sir. You are audible.
Hello. Ποιο είναι? Hello.
Yes, sir, please start.
Ife. Okay,
Yes,
it came.
perfect.
Okay, some problem with the headphones. I changed, but
It's
still.
okay, sir. Now it's perfectly fine. You can continue.
Okay, hopefully it will not create a problem. So, did you hear me about Panini? I spoke about Panini. It was okay with Panini.
Yes, sir.
Before.
Panini was okay. Now Kharoshthi script you started.
Okay, I said Panini was there in Northwest India, and he might have got the influence from because he's speaking about the Greek writings. He's the first to speak about the Greek script. And he might have knowledge about the Greek script due to the existence of a Greek community, because he will not bring an example in his book for a very distant writing, which nobody knows. The example which he brings must be from near, so the people can understand it. And he lives in the area where we have the first development of the Indian script. This is the Kharoshthi, coming from Aramaic and in Persian lingua franca. And it is in Prakriti language. It's not in Sanskrit, it's in Prakriti language. And here later on, the Greeks also are using from one side written in Greek, Adialkidas, in his coin, Vasilevs Nikephoros Adialkidas, and from the other side is in Kharoshthi, using this script, which was known to the Northwest India. And this is the fragment from Panini grammar, where he mentions Yavanani in Astadhyaya 4.149. And this sutra, actually in this sutra, he brings the suffix anuk, how with the suffix anuk we create the feminine gender to some words. And the examples he used here, he also brings the Yavanani. From Yavana, we have the Yavanani, that is the female, which might refer to Yavanani script, and also another say interpretation might be the Yavana woman. Okay. Also, we have this Yavanani. We have also in the theater, in the curtain, they play in the Yavanica, which was also the magazine of the Indian Society for Greek Studies, Greek and Roman Studies. Okay, after Alexander, okay, the two civilizations actually came in contact, and then the interaction was established. So up to here, I think we will stop. If any question is welcome. If anyone wants any explanation, further details. Okay, here is Megasthenes. He will also continue. He will write the stories before him. Okay, he was Megasthenes is the ambassador of Seleucus, the successor of Alexander the Great in Chandragupta, Maurya, and he will keep the whole tradition, the older tradition also in his books. He will refer to also the whole myths and stories, even the invasion of Dionysus from the West, the worship of Dionysus of Hercules in India. Such a reference he will give us also in his Indica. Okay, I stop here. If anything for discussion, please. Any question? Anitaji.
Thank you very much, sir. It was really an enlightening speech, as well as the PPT you presented. We just lost in that PPT that we were in a conference or we are directly interacting with the Greek culture. So I thank you and congratulate you for your wonderful presentation, sir. Now, sir wants, if anybody has any kind of question, you are welcome. If anyone has any kind of question, you can ask. I think, sir, it is very much clear to each and everyone. And again, I would like to thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentation.
I also thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
No, sir, it was great to have you on our conference. And together we can do much more things. And your cooperation with Hellenistic also. You have posted our whole information on the Hellenistic website. through which the Greek persons also interacted with us in the Zoom meeting. It is all because of you, sir. And I hope that in future also we will have association for further academic collaboration, sir.
Okay, thanks. Sorry for the technical problems we had in the time.
It's okay, sir, because we are on this virtual platform, so it happens. It was not a big one. Anil, sir, if you have any comment or any reaction on sir's presentation, please.
No, it was absolutely fine. I think there is nothing to say. Everything was very clear, crisp, and with the help of slide, there remains no queries in the mind. So thank you, Professor Vasiliadis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anilji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. You are live also on the YouTube. I have shared the link, so you can share it with your students also in Greece. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, I would like to invite with us today, we are having Gyan Luigi Segelerba with us from Austria, Vienna. And he was last year also with us in the national seminar we organized from the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat on the topic of epic and mythology. And this time I again requested him, and before inviting him, I would like to introduce him with all of you. So he was born in Genoa in 1967, then obtained PhD in philosophy at the University of Pisa in 1998. He was visiting scholar in the University of Tübingen of Berne of Vienna, and his first publication was Notes to Ossia, Pisa 2001. He was co-editor of the volume Substania Psi et Non 2008, and he published a book Semantic and Ontology, Dries Studio Z Aristoteles from Bern, and presently he's working in Vienna. He has various publications, lots of books and articles in past 25 years. Basically, he's working on Plato, and many times has worked for various things. So I have a huge biodata of Gyan, sir. I hope sir is present with us in this meeting. So sir, I would like to give you a warm welcome from the side of Shahid Mangal Pandey Government Girls PG College. Sir, I would like to invite you for your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening. I'm audible. I'm audible.
Yes, yes.
It's
sir.
correct. Thank
Yes.
you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you all for your interest. I would only ask whether I can share my PowerPoint. How can I do here? With I cannot
Yes,
in
yes,
this
sir.
moment.
You want to share screen, sir?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
But
Sir, fine.
it is-
Just a minute, sir.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please. So, can you see it?
So before you start, I would like to welcome Catherine Bobbitt ma'am also,
Yes.
because you will be presenting on her behalf also with us. So I
Yes.
heartily welcome her. Thank you, sir. Please
Yes,
go ahead.
Thank you very much. I would only like to ask whether can you see it normally? That is, it is
Yes,
always
yes, it is
functioning.
visible.
Thank you
It
very
is
much.
visible, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, our discussion will be on some points which we have found regarding some aspects of Plato's philosophy and the Katha Upanishad. Thank you, of course, very much, and everything is at disposal. I will, of course, make available the PowerPoint and also a text on which I have been working. over the past days, which portrays the contents which I'm going to expose. Now, the question of today is concentrated on this point, that is, we were attracted, our attention was attracted by some common points which we found really accidentally between the chariot allegory in Kathopanishad and in Plato's Phaedrus. And we began to ask ourselves how we could interpret this point. The text shortly are these ones. You see, in Kathopanishad it is said, now the Atman as the lord of the chariot, the body as only the chariot, know also intelligence and the driver, now the mind as the reins. Whereas Plato says, at the beginning of his long allegory, he says, let us then liken the soul to the natural union of a team of winged horses and their charioteers. And then he goes forward. We will see something of the allegory of Plato. And we began to ask where the similarity, why the similarity has been originated. It is to be said that a very important person for India, whom we discovered that he has written also on this argument, a man who honored India and the whole world, said that in one of his main intellectual works he noted this similarity to the person is the second president of India, Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan. He said, among other things, to have fully embodied Plato's ideal of the union of philosophy and politics, and as a philosopher president in the same form in which Plato spoke of the philosopher kings. And he noticed in one of his works that there are similarities, and to quote his very interesting observation, in the volume, The Principal Upanishads, page 7023, he said, in spite of difference in details, the Kathopanishad and Plato agree in looking upon intelligence as the ruling power of the soul, and aiming at the integration of the different elements of human nature. So the problem is posed. There are similarities, and of course we should find an answer to these similarities. The beginning point of this research was given by the similarity between the image of the chariot in the Kathopanishad, first Yadhyaya, third Pali, on the one hand, and the image of the chariot in Plato's Phaedrus on the other hand. But the image as such, and the use which is made of the image in the two texts, asks for analysis. The context to which the two images belong have many points in common. The similarity can be due to an accident, of course. It could be due to a relation between cultures, mutual exchange, perhaps, through Persia. Or it can be due to the derivation of the two cultures from a common origin, for instance, the common Indo-European origin. It could be a layer of the older culture, which is then passed to both the Indian culture and the ancient Greek thought. The image of the chariot, the Ratha, is important in our opinion, but it is not all. It gives indication, though. There are precise similarities in the frame in which the chariot is posed, both in Plato and in the Kathopanishad. For instance, we found that there are similarities in the meaning of truth, in the meaning and connection of Satya, for the individual and for the interpretation of reality. We found an opposition in both texts and in many, many aspects of ancient Greek thought on the one side and of the Indian cultural heritage on the other hand, an opposition between authentic reality and appearance. And there are similarities too in the interpretation of the individual, of his destiny, of his position in the world. The anthropology, so to speak, the position of the individual in the reality and the individual's destiny. the individual condition in the world. And last but not least, of course, the relation between the sphere of the senses and the intellect. Further aspects, texts, and authors of ancient Greek thought could be used for comparison, but we are not going to speak about these points in today's session. For instance, another author who is very important is Parmenides for the opposition between being and not being. Plato's case in the Republic as an allegory of the human condition preceding the liberation brought about by knowledge. Plato's Timaeus for the cosmic soul, which has, so to speak, many similarities with some interpretation of Atman in the Upanishad. And likewise, Plato's Laws, another work of Plato's for the conception of the soul. In order to give you only a quotation from Parmenides, and then we will pass to the analysis of Plato's. Parmenides, for instance, says about truth in a revelation which is made by the goddess, who is speaking with him in his work, and which could be synthesized under the title For Being and Against Not Being. The goddess says to him, "Come now, we'll tell you the only roots of inquiry that are for thinking. The one that it is, and that it is not possible for it not to be, is a path of persuasion, for it depends upon truth. The other, that it is not, that it is right that it did not be. This indeed I declare to you to be a path entirely unable to be investigated. But neither can you know what is not, for it is not to be accomplished, nor can you declare it. So Parmenides gives us a clear opposition between being and not being. Now, to make a spring, you see, we have something similar here between regarding the opposition between being and not being. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, chapter 1, third Brahmana, 27, you see here it is said, Asatoma Sat Gamaya, Tamasoma Jyotir Gamaya, Nirturma Amartam Gamaya. And I am particularly interested in the first of the three oppositions, Asatoma Sat Gamaya. From evil, lead me to the good, from darkness, lead me to the light, from death, lead me to immortality, or another translation possible. From the unreal, lead me to the real. From the darkness, lead me to the light. From death, lead me to immortality. And a common point between this quotation and the very many points which we can find in Parmenides before and then in Plato is the opposition between being and not being, between truth and appearance, between real, authentic reality and falsity, not authentic reality. There's really, it is impressive as Plato and Parmenides developed these ideas, which is so common. There are so many common points as regards the Upanishad, because it gives a precise sense of regarding the destiny of the individual. That is, the individual is born in a dimension of not being, of falsity, of appearance, and his duty, his mission in life, consists in becoming aware of this initial condition, becoming self-aware, that is, aware of his own position in the world, and in taking a decision about his further development. So here it is. You see here the opposition, unreal versus real, darkness versus light, and mortality versus immortality. And these three oppositions are three oppositions which we can find many times in Plato. Not formulated in this way, like in the Upanishad, but anyway, they are developing in a very, very similar way. So this can be, and now I can go to the Phaedrus. As I said, there are these long allegory in the chariots, in the Phaedrus, and we will see these points in Phaedrus allegory. That is, there are very many concepts in this allegory which we have to interpret. For instance, the truth, interpretation of truth, of the concept of truth, the interpretation of the position of the individual in the reality, which is given, transmitted through this allegory. That is, of course, it is not so simple to be interpreted, but it is in the allegory. The allegory is a metaphor for the human condition. The interpretation of the way of spiritual progress of the individual, the way exists and can be found, the interpretation of the metempsychosis of birth and birth and of the cycle of the rebirth of the individual. Since Plato speaks also about this, the interpretation of the relationships between senses and the other parts of the soul, the interpretation of the average life condition, and the interpretation of the opposition between authentic reality and appearance. And furthermore, the role which is assigned to the crown ledge, in order that it is interpreted like what the individual should do, how to do morally in his own life, the opposition between false and wrong, true and right, and the interpretation of the individual as such. That is, the individual should and could initiate a passage from ignorance to authenticity. And finally, last but not least, the concept of being as opposed to appearance, and the concept of truth as opposed likewise to the appearance to the inauthentic reality. Well, the first passage of Plato's Phaedrus, which we would like to consider, describes us some aspects of the soul, its existence, its immortality, and the necessity of its existence. A proof of the immortality of the soul is exposed in the text we are going to read now. Shall not analyze all steps of the proofs, it would be very long, but the important thing is, in this moment, to notice Plato's attention for the existence of the soul in the universe, of the cosmic soul in the universe, which directs everything in the universe, throughout the universe, and which is diffused in the whole universe, and which gives, of course, life and motion to the whole universe. As a synthesis of the whole argument, it can be said that Plato is asserting if the soul is not immortal, the life of the universe will be extinguished. Since this hypothesis is impossible, the soul is immortal. Plato tells in particular in the Phaedrus. Now we must first understand the truth about the nature of the soul, divine or human, by examining what it does and what is done to it. Here begins the proof. Every soul is immortal. That is because whatever is always in motion is immortal, while what moves and is moved by something else stops living when it stops moving. So it is only what moves itself that never desists from motion, since it does not leave off being itself. In fact, the self-mover is also the source and spring of motion in everything else that moves. And the source has no beginning. That is because anything that has a beginning comes from some source, but there is no source for this, since the source that got its start from something else would no longer be the source. And since it cannot have a beginning, then necessarily it cannot be destroyed. That is because if the source were destroyed, it could never get started again from anything else, and nothing else could get started from it. That is, if a thing gets started from its source. This, then, is why a self-mover is a source of motion, and that is incapable of being destroyed or starting up, otherwise, or even, and everything that has been started up would collapse, come to a stop, and never have cause to start moving again. But since we have found that the self-mover is immortal, we should have no qualms about declaring that this is the very essence and principle of the soul. For every bodily object that moves from outside has no soul, while a body whose motion comes from within, from itself, does have a soul, that being the nature of the soul. And if this is so, that whatever moves itself is essentially a soul, then it follows necessarily that soul should have neither birth nor death. So I go forward, and now, as I said, here it is only important that in that quotation that Plato strongly affirms, first of all, the soul exists, secondly, the soul is immortal, and thirdly, if the soul were not immortal, then the universe would have an end. And this hypothesis is not to be accepted, since soul is that which enlivens the eternal universe. Now we have in front of us the chariot, the allegory of the chariot, which is so similar to the allegory of the Kathopanishad. And then I would like to take into consideration some points of this. As introduction, I would say the following description. That is, in order to explain the constitution of the soul, Plato resorts to the image of the charioteer and of the chariot. We were able to observe the following correspondences throughout the image. The owl allegory of the horses and the charioteer corresponds to a description of the owl soul. The image holds for all souls. The charioteer corresponds to intellect. The two horses of the human souls correspond to the sphere of the emotions, as we will see. And in the human soul, one horse is positive, whereas the other horse is negative. There is a constitutive difference between the God's souls and the other souls. The image is the dynamic. The individual can lead the chariot well or not well, depending on its capacity. The charioteer can follow the gods or lose its position in reality and be condemned to the cycle of their births. Let's now read Plato's allegory, something of it. It is very long, it is a very complex allegory, as we are going to see, and this is the beginning of it. That then, Plato says, that then is enough about the soul's immortality. Now here is what we must say about its structure. Describe what the soul actually is would require a very long account, altogether a task for a god in every way. But to say what it is like is humanly possible and takes less time. So let us do the second in our speech. Let us then liken the soul to the natural union of a team of winged horses and their charioteer. The gods have horses and charioteers that are themselves all good and come from good stock besides, while everyone has a mixture. To begin with, our driver is in charge of a pair of horses. Second, one of these horses is beautiful and good and from stock of the same sort, while the other is the opposite and has the opposite sort of bloodline. This means that chariot driving, in our case, is inevitably a painfully difficult business. Of course, all these images have to be translated into the human condition in the world. And now we will perhaps extract some points of interpretation of this first quotation. So after speaking on the immortality of the soul, immediately after, Plato proceeds to speak about the constitution of the soul, of our soul in particular. And Plato's discourse will be exclusively a likeness of the authentic structure of the soul. Therefore, the readers cannot read the image describing by the soul as the authentic condition of the soul. Notwithstanding, nonetheless, the likeness can deliver the description of the functions of the soul. The soul is described as a union of winged horses on the one hand and of a charioteer on the other hand, we have seen. This description of the soul holds both for the souls of the gods and for the souls of the human beings. And there is nonetheless a precise difference between the souls of the gods on the one hand And the souls of the human beings, on the other hand, the horses of the gods, are good. Whereas in the case of the human beings, the souls have two horses. Only one of the horses is good. The first aspect which the readers can gain from this specific description is that human beings are constitutively inferior to the gods. Human beings are not gods, of course. There are precise limitations to the human beings. Therewith, Plato aims to introduce the limitation of the human beings, the limitation of the human condition. The chariot driving for the human beings proved as a consequence to be a difficult enterprise as such. And we will see why this is so important. Because there is something connected to the chariot driving. Something which determines the further destiny of the human being. Plato goes then on and says, now I should try to tell you why living things are said to include both mortal and immortal beings. The soul looks after all that lacks a soul, and vessels all of heaven, taking different shapes in different times. So long as its wings are in perfect condition, it flies high, and the entire universe is its dominion. But a soul that sheds its wings wanders until it lights for something solid, where it settles and takes on an earthly body, which is then, owing to the power of this soul, seems to move itself. The whole combination of soul and body is called a living thing or animal, and has the designation mortal as well. Such a combination cannot be mortal, not on any reasonable account. From this point, we can perhaps gain some observation. The soul directs its attention to anything which is without soul. That is, the soul dominates. It is like a kind of cosmic soul, which then is differentiated into individual souls. It seems that Plato is speaking of a kind of cosmic soul and of the individual souls. The cosmic soul takes different shapes in the different phases of their reality. The cosmic soul takes care of everything which does not have a soul. Souls which lose their wings are united in a body. Apparently, bodies can move themselves. Actually, the souls which are in the bodies are the cause of the movement of the bodies. The cause of the losing of the wings is not yet explained. It will be explained in the further session. And the union of the soul and the body is defined as living being or as an animal. The composition of soul and body cannot be immortal. And then Plato goes on and delivers us a very important point. He says, in fact, it is pure fiction based neither on observation nor on adequate reasoning that the God is an immortal living thing which has the body and the soul, that these are bound together by nature for all time. But of course, we must let this be as may please the gods and speak accordingly. Let us turn to what causes the shedding of the wings, what makes them fall away from the soul. It is something of this sort. By their nature, wings have the power to lift up heavy things and raise them aloft where the gods all dwell, and so, more than anything that pertains to the body, they are akin to the divine, which has beauty, wisdom, goodness, and everything of that sort. These nourish the soul's wings, which grow best in their presence, that is, in the presence of wisdom, goodness, and beauty. But foulness and ugliness make the wings shrink and disappear. This is the problem for the human beings. Gods are not, as interpretation, God is not a union of bodies. So the birth and life of an animal is to be explained as the union of the soul and the body. The birth of any animal is due to a corresponding soul losing its wings, thus to a process of decadence of the soul itself. The wings are nurtured by beauty, wisdom, and goodness. They are furthermore nurtured by everything which is connected to beauty, to wisdom, and to goodness. But the wings are ruined by foulness and by ugliness. And then Plato says, now Zeus, the great commander in heaven, drives his winged chariot first in the procession, looking after everything and putting all things in order. Following him is an army of gods and spirits arranged in 11 sections. Estia is the goddess of the house of home, of the domestic dimension. Estia is the only one who remains at the home of the gods. All the rest of the 12 are lined up in formation, each god in command of the unit to which is assigned. Inside heaven are many wonderful places from which to look, and many ages which the blessed gods pick up and back, each seeing to his own work, while anyone who is able and wishes to do so follows along, since jealousy has no place in the gods' courts. When they go to feast and to banquet, they have a steep climb to the high tower of the rim of the hidden, and this slope the gods' chariots move easily, since they are balanced and well under control, but the other chariots barely make it. The heaviness of the bad horse drags its charioteer toward the earth and weighs him down if he has failed to train it well. And this causes the most extreme toil and struggle that the soul will face. But when the souls, we call immortals, reach the top, they move outward and take their stand on the higher reach of the heaven, where its circular motion carries them around as they stand while they gaze upon what is outside heaven. So, as interpretation of this passage is rather complex. The soul, the gods, are going upwards outside the event, and then they will enjoy the enlightenment of the truth. So it is scientifically what is happening. But the problem is gods will make it, but human beings, it's not so sure that they are going to make it completely. This is the problem of the human beings, and this is the problem of for the destiny of the human beings. So the allegory is rather complex, but the sense is clear. Men are not gods, and human beings are not going to see completely, or are not going to see at all, what gods can see. And this will have consequences for the lives of the individual. So, some points, the further image of the possession of the soul is introduced by Plato, as we have seen. The possession of the soul is led by the gods. The possession is fulfilled easily by the gods. On the contrary, the soul of the other entities have difficulties during the possession. The bad force of the soul of the human being represents the obstacle during this possession. The main difference between gods and human beings is the we described. The difference in the possession will have consequences for the destiny of the human soul. And through the possession, the entities are able to contemplate what is outside the human. Let's see what happens now. The place beyond heaven, none of our earthly poets has ever sung or ever will sing its praises enough. Still, this is the way it is. Risky as it may be, you see, I must attempt to speak the truth, especially since the truth is my subject. What is this place is without color and without shape and without solidity. A being that real is what it is. The being, we could add, a being that real is what it is. The subject of all true knowledge, visible only to intelligence. The soul's steersman. Now, a God's mind is nourished by intelligence and pure knowledge, as is the mind of any soul that is concerned to take in what is appropriate to it. And so it is delighted at last to be seeing what is real and watching what is true, feeding on all this and feeding wonderful until the circular motion brings it around to where it started. On the way around, it has a view of justice as truth. It has a view of self-control. It has a view of knowledge, not the knowledge that is close to change, that becomes different as it knows different things which you consider real down here. No, it is the knowledge of what really is what it is. Therefore, I only would like to incidentally say it is so important, this tradition of Parmenides and Plato about the being as opposed to the not being. No, it is the knowledge of what really is what it is. And when the soul has seen all the things that are as they are and insisted on them, it sinks back inside heaven and goes home. On its arrival, the charioteer stables the horses by the manger, throws in ambrosia, and gives them nectar to their desire. So as interpretation, Plato introduced now the place outside the heaven. The entities which are in this place are without color, without shape, without solidity. Among other things, this point is similar to some description of Brahman and of Atman in the Upanishad. The entities which are in this place are the being which really is. These entities are the objects of the true, really found in knowledge. These entities are accessible only to the intellect, which is the charioteer of the image of the soul. The God's intelligence is nourished by mind, by pure knowledge. It contemplates what is and what is true. God's intelligence can see justice, can see temperance, can see knowledge, which is connected to that which really is. And the contemplation activity of the gods is perfect. These gods have no problems, but there is something else, somebody else who has problem indeed, unfortunately, and these are we. And these are we, and Plato says, now that is the life of the gods. As for the other souls, one that follows the god most closely, marking itself most like the god, rises to the heat of its charioteer up to the place outside and is carried around the circular motion with the others. But though distracted by the horses, the soul does have a view of reality just barely. Another soul rises at one time and falls at another, and because its horses pull it violently in different directions, it sees some real things and misses others. The remaining souls are all eagerly straining to keep up, but are unable to rise. They are carried around below the surface, trampling and striking one another as each tries to get ahead of the others. The result is terribly noisy, very sweaty and disorderly. Many souls are crippled by the incompetence of the drivers, and many wings break much of their plumage. After so much trouble, they are lived without having seen reality, uninitiated, and when they have gone, they will depend on what they think is nourishment, their own opinions. That is, the condition of the human beings is different, and of course, this has to be translated into the average life condition. This is the allegory, but of course, the allegory is a way to suggest how we are and how we should try to be. And Plato now introduces the life of the other souls. The other souls are characterized by constitutive limitations. The souls which are next to the gods can have a better contemplation indeed, but the vision of the true reality is limited, but it takes place. Other souls can see some aspects of the true reality, but it misses other ones. Other souls cannot see anything at all. As a consequence of the difficulties in the procession, it can happen that the other souls do not have contacts with the authentic reality, but that they remain in the sphere of the opinion. Of course, translated, we as human beings are not going to have a complete vision of the true reality during our lives. We are limited entities, but we can reach at least something. Now, let's see how Plato completes his allegory, his long allegory. The reason that there is so much eagerness to see the plain, the Dion, in Greek, in ancient Greek, where true stands, is that this pasture as the grass, that is the right food for the best part of the soul. And it is the nature of the winds that lift up the soul to be nourished by it. Besides, the law of destiny is this. These are the consequences of our limitations. If any soul becomes a companion to a god and catches sight of any true thing, it will be unharmed until the next circle. And if it is able to do this every time, it will always be safe. If, on the other hand, It does not see anything true because it could not keep up, and by some accident takes on a burden of forgetfulness and wrongdoing, then it is weighed down, sheds its wings, and falls to earth. At that point, according to the law, the soul is not born into a wild animal in its first incarnation, but a soul that has seen the most will be planted in the seed of a man who will become a lover of wisdom or of beauty, or will be cultivated in the hearts and thrown where art flow. The second sort of soul will be put into someone who will be a lawful king or warlike commander. The third, a statesman, a manager of a household, or a financier. The fourth will be a trainer who loves exercise, or a doctor who cures the body. The fifth will lead the life of a prophet or a priest of the mysteries. To the sixth, the life of a poet or some other representational artist is properly assigned. To the seventh, the life of a manual laborer or farmer. To the ninth, the career of a sophist or a demagogue, and to the ninth, a tyrant. It is a degradation of souls, of course. The more you have seen, the higher the position it is which you have in life, and the less you have seen in this vision, the less you are morally in the normal life. So as interpretation, we can see now these points. All souls would like to see the entities of the plane of truth, but the access to vision within the plane of truth is not possible for all souls. The ground why all souls wish to see the entities of the plane of truth is that the entities of the plane of truth represent the appropriate nurture for the best part of the soul, it is for the intellect. Of course, the more nurture, the more the intellect has power, and the less nurture, the less the intellect has power. And correspondingly, the emotion has more power. It is the individual has less control on himself. The law of destiny, following to the different degrees of visions and contemplation of the truth, establishes that the souls which are able to contemplate the true entities are safe from the rebirth, safe from reincarnation, safe from the metempsychosis, are safe up to the next procession. If the soul is able to contemplate the true entities in every procession, it will remain the condition in which it is. But the souls which are not able to see the true entities will lose the wings and will be joined to a body. Depending on the degree reached in the sufficient contemplation, the individual joined to a body will become, in a descending order of value, lovers of wisdom or of beauty, then love of kings or warlike commanders, statesmen, managers of a household, financiers, trainers loving exercise, doctors curing the body, then prophets or priests of the mysteries, poets or representational artists, and down, manual laborers or farmers, sophists or demagogues, and the most down of all, tyrants. Tyrants are, in Plato, this is said many times, also in the Republic, for instance, in the degeneration of the constitution of individuals, the lower scale in the human beings. They transform themselves in assassins. The difference in the capacity of contemplation of the true entities turns out to be the cause of the decadence of the soul. The decadence is also a moral one, since the last members of the line is the tyrant, whereas the last but not are sophists and demagogues. And so to speak, what is saying this allegory to us, which is so complex, so rich in images? The kernel of the allegory is, in our opinion, that the knowledge and the degree of knowledge which is reached by the individual are decisive for the development of the soul. Actually, there are also other parts of the soul. Perhaps I could read this one if I had the time, in order to see that there is a way of liberation from the rebirth. It is the soul has decadence to the earth and dimension, is condemned to birth, first of all, and to the rebirth, but condemned, yes, but not forever. The soul can return to the original point. It can be free from the body. And Plato says, of all these, any who have led their lives with justice will change to a better fate, and who have led theirs with injustice to a worse one. In fact, no soul returns to the place from which it came for 10,000 years, since its wings will not grow before then, except for the soul of a man who practices philosophy without guilt or without love for philosophy. If after the third cycle of 1,000 years, the last mentioned souls have chosen such a life 3 times in a row, they grow their wings back and they depart the 3,000th year. As for the rest, once their first life is over, they come to judgment. And once judged, some are condemned to go to places of punishment beneath the earth and pay the full penalty for their injustice, while the others are lifted up by justice to a place in heaven, where they live in the manner the life they led in human form and serve them. In the 1,000th year, both groups arrive at a choice in the allotment of second lives, and each soul chooses the life it wants. From there, a human soul can enter a wild animal, and a soul that was once human can move from an animal to a human being again. But a soul that never saw the truth cannot take a human shape, since a human being must understand speech in terms of general forms, proceeding to bring many perceptions together into a reasoned unity. The process is the recollection of the things our soul saw when it was traveling with God, when it disregarded things we know are real, and lifted up its head what is truly real instead. So, and of course, I can make a spring in order to cope with other arguments. I see that I have been speaking very much already. I only want to read a last point, with the last point of which this allegory is closed, because it is, in my opinion, characteristic of Plato's position. He says that in this page, in the middle of the page, it says, "And we who celebrated it were wholly perfect and free of all troubles that awaited us in time to come." This is when we were in the condition to go upside the heaven, and we gazed in rapture at sacred, revealed objects that were perfect and simple and unshakable and blissful. That was the ultimate vision. We saw it in pure light, because we were pure ourselves, not buried in this thing we are carrying around now, which we call a body, locked in it like an oyster in its shell. This we can see now that the end of this long allegory in Plato is characterized by a sense of nostalgia for the alternative dimension, from the dimension which is not the dimension of the average life. And as interpretation, you see, the realm of truth and being does not have a purely theoretical value, since the contact and the lack of contact with the realm of truth and being just suddenly modifies the life of the individual. The human subject can free itself from the sequence of the progressive migration, from being trapped in the dimension of the transmigration of souls, through the recognition of those entities which belong to the realm of truth and of being. The danger of losing the dimension of contemplation on the part of the human soul forms a kind of constitutive existing dimension for the human soul, since the human soul by nature has a part that is averse to the realm of truth and being. The actual cause of human mortality is consequently the inner lack of the human soul, which must always struggle to be able to remain in the state of contemplation. Man, although he could also have access to the realm of truth and being, is nevertheless in a state of danger from his own essence. The individual can always degenerate into an inferior structure. The individual should become aware of the state of constant danger and find a way out of the danger. Every individual is called upon to educate himself. The myth, the allegory, represents a kind of invitation to his own education. The human being is a living being which, by nature, is condemned to a kind of existential incompleteness. For in the section of the myth, which concerns the life of the soul before the incorporation, it is explained that while exemplification, the gods allow a complete view of the evil in realm, they are able to achieve, the outlook of the people is always disturbed by numerous obstacles. Men are condemned to partial perception of the realm of truth and of being. The human soul cannot attain more than a defective perception. As a result, even before incorporation, the position of the person is a very disadvantage. The incorporation itself turns out, seen in this light, to be a consequence of the deficiency of the human soul. For the human soul is not able to fully contemplate the realm of truth and the realm of the true beings. Failure to see what is true is a cause of the decadence of the soul. Only the soul, which is able to grasp elements of truth, can remain in the state of observation of the heavenly states. The myth can, in the out, be interpreted as a kind of request for self-knowledge. The human subject experiences different aspects through the myth, such as the structure of the soul, the difference between areas in which a soul can live, the origin of the soul, the state of the soul as a structure that is divided into itself, the influences that are exerted on the soul by the areas of reality, and the awareness that the earthly dimension is not the only dimension of reality. The task of the human being after incorporation is the knowledge of reality as well as of one situation in the reality. This, of course, applies to the case that the individual strives for return to the realm of truth and being. The knowledge of the realm of truth and of beings lifts the soul up to a dimension that would otherwise not be attainable. The level of knowledge reached is the dimension of light to which a person belongs. Now, in order to conclude that, I would only like to, since we have seen the most of the process, but since I have spoken of this, of the analogies between Plato and Katha Upanishad, you can see here how the allegory is introduced in the Katha Upanishad, the allegory of the chariot, and you see, you can read, now the Atman as the lord of the chariot, the body as on the chariot, know also intelligence as the driver, know the minds as the reins. The allegory of the chariot is presented, as you can see, in the Katha Upanishad too, as you can see. The following correspondence between the components of the chariot and components of the individual can be seen. Atman is the lord of the chariot, the body is the chariot, the intelligence is the driver of the chariot, and the mind is the reins. And the allegory goes on, and it is the senses, they call the horses, the object of the senses, they roads. When he, the higher self, is in union with the body, the senses, and the mind, then wise people call him the enjoyer. So we can see the horses are the senses, which is similar to what Plato said, not equal, but similar. The object which the senses perceive are the way of the chariot. And if the Atman is united with the body, the senses, and the mind, then the Atman is the enjoyer. The entity which is called the enjoyer exists, provided that there is unity between Atman, body, and mind. So it seems. And the allegory goes on, and it is said, but of him who is not possessed of discrimination, whose mind is always uncontrolled, the senses are not controllable as visual sources of a drive. Also, here the importance of the knowledge, as Radhakrishnan has pointed out. And if the individual does not possess discriminatory intelligence, vijnana, and does not hold his mind under control, the individual has, as a consequence, senses which are not under control. The individual has to change its dimension. He can change his dimension only if he is able to hold his own senses under control. A condition of dominance of the intellect of the other faculties of the individual is needed in order that the individual can reach progress in his own condition. And going forward, it is said, but of him who knows, and as a mind always controlled, the senses are always controllable as the good horses of the driver. This knowledge is in the first point. If there is intelligence and knowledge, and therefore if the mind is under control, the senses too are under control. That is, the chariot is really a unity. It's not something which is going apart, whose components are going apart. But he whose intellect has no discrimination, no vijnana, and whose mind is not under control and who is always unclean, does not reach that goal and falls into samsara. The discriminatory knowledge is indispensable in order not to fall in samsara. There is no knowledge, there is no possibility of avoiding the rebirths. That is also here, as in Plato, we can see a parallel. That is, knowledge and intelligence and discriminatory intelligence are necessary. The consequence is a fall, a decadence of the individual. That is either knowledge or decadence of the individual. The scheme is the parallel is between the two allegories is clear. Knowledge and intelligence make everything for the individual. Otherwise, there is a decadence, a moral decadence. And going forward, it is said in the Katha Upanishad that he who knows, who has his mind always under control and who is clean, reaches that goal from which he is not born again. Also here, that is, if there is knowledge, a dimension is reached through which the person is free from the rebirth. Like in Plato, if there is knowledge, the human soul can remain in a level, on a level in which it is not condemned to the rebirth, to the incarnation, to the incorporation. So, and after that it is said that the man who has a discriminating intellect for the driver and a controlling mind for the reins reaches the end of the road, it is that highest plane, Paranapada of Vishnu. It is remarkable that in the myth of the Phaedrus, it is said that Theon, the plane of truth, and here it is said it is used pada, which is a co-radical of the ancient Greek. And also here, that is the result is it. That is, if there is the right education of the individual can reach a stage in which he is not more condemned, any longer condemned to the rebirth, and is free from decadence, from moral decadence, of course. So now, well, I think I can conclude here, of course, and be ready for the question if there are any. I would only like to give some conclusion in order to have. So to speak, a common result of the two allegories. The similarities between the allegories and between the contexts are, in our opinion, the presence of truth and of appearance, and of course the different influences which truth and appearance have on the individual. The role of knowledge, which is essential, indispensable in order that the individual could come to a point of progress, of moral progress. The births and rebirths and the cause of the condemnation to the cycle of birth and rebirth, that is, the lack of knowledge, of education, of intelligence. The interpretation of truth in the sense that there is a true reality, an authentic reality, and there is on the other side a condition of appearance. The individual and life condition, that is, the life conditions of the individual in the first dimension is to live in a dimension of appearance, and the duty of the individual, which is said many times, for instance, in Plato too, is to be aware, to become aware that he is living not in the only dimension of reality, for first. Second, that the individual is living in a dimension of pure appearance. That is, he has to go beyond the dimension in which he is beginning to live. There are the average life condition and the enlightened life condition. And as conclusion, the individual is born in a dimension of appearance. He can go out from this dimension if he acquires the appropriate knowledge. Reality is not uniform. There is a difference between reality and appearance. There is being and not being. And there is a precise opposition between the two. And these are common. We have seen Parmenides, Plato on the one side, and on the other side, the Katha Upanishad, also the Brihadarya Upanishad. The individual has components in himself which can compromise his journey towards the authentic reality. The dimension of senses and of emotions ought to be taken under control. If there is no control or no sufficient control of the sense dimension, the individual cannot reach the authentic dimension of reality. And if the individual does not reach the condition of knowledge, the individual is prey of the series of their births. Truth, as a concept, is directed to the difference between authentic reality and appearance. It is a concept applied to reality. It is not a concept limited to the correspondence between the individual's belief and reality. So his truth is authentic reality, and falsity is not authentic reality, and true and falsity have to do are immediately translated to right and wrong moral. So yeah, that's the bibliography. Of course, we thank you very much for your attention. I give you here my email, and of course, I will give you this text. And so, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your lovely presentation. We have enjoyed and has been enlightened from this nice comparison about the Katha Upanishad and the interpretation you presented. It is really very nice, sir, and we all enjoyed it a lot, and would congratulate you for such a interpretation, for such a intensive study. You have shown your interest also in the Upanishad, especially in the Katha Upanishad, Vrihadaranyaka Upanishad. So it is really wonderful, sir. Thanks a lot. And we have been enlightened and privileged to have you as a guest of honor today in our meeting, sir. Thank you very much. And pay my thanks to Catherine ma'am also, apart from whom you have presented today. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Lord. So now we have come to the conclusion, and the house is open for any question and queries. Our experts are available here. If any person wants any question or any query, they can ask.
Ma'am, I want to ask a question to honorable guest here, like if I'm allowed to.
Yes, please. What's your name?
Yeah. So first of all, I would like to think aloud. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, like in many shamanic traditions, the interpretation you gave, like the individual soul merging into the cosmic soul, those sort of incidents are always available in many shamanic traditions. So keeping that apart, similarities you have presented between Indian textual traditions and the work of Greek scholar, are these similarities, my question is, coincidental? Second, human civilization goes through the phase of evolution, and what Levi-Strauss thinks like the deep structure, if you are at certain level of evolution, you have to think in a particular way. Is this because of that? Or these similarities are because of the interaction between ancient Indian or Greek scholars perhaps had at that point?
Sir,
Can I answer?
let's see. Your question is with the Gyan, sir?
Yes.
Right,
An
right,
answer?
ma'am.
No?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Well, as perhaps I alluded to at the beginning, thank you very much, of course, for your observation and your questions, which are very important, very relevant. At the beginning, perhaps I have said, I hope I have not forgotten. Usually in the bibliographical studies, there are three hypotheses. That is, either it is an accident that there are these similarities. That is, well, they have so thought independently of each other, and that's all. That is, accident. It might happen in the history of culture, or second hypothesis. I don't think personally that it is an accident. So, but it is possible. I cannot exclude. Or it is due to exchange. Plato has made many trips. It is to be said, the metaphor, the allegory of the chariot is in different Upanishads, whereas we tend to find this allegory of the chariots a little bit in Parmenides, but I have not read it now, and in Plato. In Plato, it is really very elaborated, but many aspects, many descriptions, very complex also. So it is a sort of exchange, probably an influence of the Indian cultural heritage on Plato. Plato has heard of it, has assimilated it, and has transposed it in his own work. The third hypothesis is perhaps a little bit complexer than this one. It is like Sanskrit and ancient Greek derived from the same language, from Indo-European, and then departed. But there are very many similarities between them. Like in the same way in which a common derivation happened, we cannot exclude that heritage, a cultural heritage, a common Indo-European heritage has passed to the Indian tradition on the one hand, and to the Old Greek tradition on the other hand. That is, there is a kind of common thought, which then has been delivered to the two different cultural currents, and of course it has had modifications because there are differences between the two images. The analogy which is made is, as there is a passage of the transformation of the language, we cannot exclude that the cultural heritage which was already in the Europeans has gone through the has been handed over to the two countries, to the two cultures. Well, it is difficult to take a decision about the hypothesis because, of course, for the third one, we do not have, as far as I know, a proof. That is, we have not documents in which we can find Indo-Europeans had this so, and this can give us the common root of the two traditions, of the Indian tradition and of the ancient Greek tradition. I must admit that, in spite of the fact that we have not proof, it is the third hypothesis, the hypothesis which I personally prefer. That is, there was a common root, which then has been handed over to the two cultures. And I would say I am of this opinion because the allegory of the chariot is, of course, important. Well, in the Indian cultural tradition, it is very common. In Plato, it's not. In the ancient Greek tradition, is not so common. But the point is, the chariot is, in my opinion, an indication of a context of a mental context, a thought context, which is indeed common to both cultures. That is, true and appearance, authentic reality and appearance, the role of the senses, the necessity of knowledge, the departure point of life of the individual, which is in the falsity, in the appearance, and the individual has to go out beyond. This can be found many times. It is the old Platonic philosophy which is so. The cave, for instance, we are in the cave and we have to go outside the cave. That is, there are very many metaphors of Plato, which is saying we must become aware that our dimension is limited and that we have to go beyond it. So to speak, if the hypothesis of influence on India, on Greece, is a hypothesis which cannot be excluded, of course. Perhaps it happened also. But in my opinion, the problem is not only the chariot. The problem is the old way of thought of Plato, Parmenides Plato, so to speak, the part of the Indian thought, that is, authentic reality versus appearance, intellect versus senses, necessity of knowledge, and so on and so forth. Only one thing, therefore I am for the third opinion. And I think that as regards the Hellenistic thought, the line of Parmenides Plato is a profoundly different line from the line of Aristotle. In Aristotle, you can find, well, truth is correspondence. You have beliefs, there is outside reality. If there is correspondence, truth is there is no correspondence falsehood. But in Plato, you have a complete different conception of truth. Truth is in the things. There are things which are true and things which are not true. And we begin to live in things which are not true. And this is, in my opinion, the important aspect which connects directly Plato's way of thought to so many aspects of the Indian thought. And therefore, I think it can be really very productive to unify the forces in order to interpret Plato in a new way, because these aspects of Plato are a little bit taken out of consideration in the last time in the Bible. Thank you very much. I hope I have an answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering the questions.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other question from any side?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Samir, please.
गुड इवनिंग मैम। मैम, मैंने रिसर्च पेपर लिखने का प्रयास किया था और मेरा जो टॉपिक था वो ये था कि प्राचीन काल में वैश्वीकरण कोलन गांधार कला के विशेष संदर्भ में। तो मेरा सवाल भी यही है, मैंने अभी वो पूरा लिख नहीं पाया हूँ, उसको मैं प्रयास कर रहा हूँ, अभी हाफ हो चुका है। शायद मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो मैंने उसमें चीजें देखी है, पढ़ी है, समझी है कि जैसे वर्तमान में हम ग्लोबलाइजेशन को पढ़ते हैं, लेकिन एंसेंट एरा में, प्राचीन काल में गांधार आर्ट भी कहीं ना कहीं ग्लोबलाइजेशन के लिए जिम्मेदार या उत्तरदायी थी, और हम ऐसा मान सकते हैं और उसको हम सिद्ध भी कर सकते हैं। तो मेरा क्वेश्चन यही था कि गांधार आर्ट इज रेस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर ग्लोबलाइजेशन इन एंसेंट एरा। मतलब वैसे मैं इस पे काम भी कर रहा हूँ और आई थिंक मैं आप तक अपना रिसर्च पेपर भेज भी दूंगा व्हाट्सएप पर कल तक या परसों तक। तो बस इसी के बारे में पूछना चाहता हूँ कि इस एस्पेक्ट्स में क्या आंसर सही हो सकता है, क्या गांधार आर्ट ग्लोबलाइजेशन के लिए रेस्पॉन्सिबल थी या नहीं?
Yes, very nice question. And आपने आज के परिप्रेक्ष्य में जो ग्लोबलाइजेशन की बात होती है उसको प्राचीन संस्कृति तक ले जाने का प्रयास किया है। तो मुझे जो लगता है वो ये है कि इट वाज क्योंकि जो इम्पैक्ट हम गांधार आर्ट में हेलेनिस्टिक इरा का देखते हैं तो उससे पता चलता है कि इट वाज द बिगिनिंग रूट्स यू कैन से ऑफ ग्लोबलाइजेशन while we have this kind of things in Gandhara art, and it is a clear indication of globalization. You can claim it. And for further, I would like to ask Vasiliadis sir if you can throw some light about the Gandhara art and its influence of Hellenistic art on the Gandhara art, sir?
First, I would like to say a few words for the previous speaker. I don't know if I spell it correctly. Gyanlugi.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Gyanlugi.
Yes. He mentioned three possibilities regarding the influence in the question of Sukhvirji Singh. So I think we should add one fourth also option. The fourth option will be that we don't know the exact dates of the Upanishads. And some scholars even suggest that they are much later, even they go to the 1st century AD. That means too much late. And there is the possibility that many aspects, which of course are common, and we see many common stories and philosophical and also in literature, that might be the other side, the influence. That is, after Alexander the Great, a lot of Greeks came and they became part of the Indian culture. Many joined the Buddhism and Jain, also the Hindu traditions. And many Greek stories came in India. So there is a lot of possibility that, like for example, we see the Trojan horse, the story of Trojan horse in Rajasthan. Okay, the story, but it's not that a horse is an elephant, but the same story, the wounded elephant where the soldiers are entering inside and they capture the city. So such influence, but also from the other side, from the Indian side to the Greek, like Josaphat and Barlam, the story of Josaphat and Barlam, where is a clear Buddhist story taken to the Greek, to the Christian tradition. So the influences are there from both sides. And so I would like to add that there is the possibility of the fourth option, that the texts are later and they have been influenced and they took ideas from the Greek. Many Greek ideas also came to the Indian philosophy, and especially with Aristotle and the logic in Nyaya, we have a lot of similarities there, which it seems more to come from the West than to come from the East. But anyway, I agree with the other three options also that are there. In my opinion, I start from the view that in the development of the human consciousness, we come to the same conclusions. That is my understanding. Because Plato gets his influence from Pythagoras, and Pythagoras gets from earlier, from the Dionysian tradition, which are also this. So I start from that view that because, like for example, swastika is common symbol in ancient Greece and ancient India, but also we found it in South America. And how we will explain it reached there? It cannot be from the Indo-Europeans. The South Americans, how they had the same symbol. And so it is the human consciousness which develops similar symbols, similar ideas. And as we develop, we come to the same conclusions, to the same enlightenment, because truth is one, and we perceive it from different paths.
Right.
Okay.
That's I was reading something like Apo va idam sarvam. It is mentioned in Mahanarayan Upanishad. And then you have Heraclitus saying Pentare, everything flows. So these two ideas are quite similar. I don't know about the chronology, like which one occurred first, but from that, I went to the idea that perhaps different civilizations during phase of their evolution encounter similar sort of ideas because of their material realities in which they are positioned. Perhaps that can be the reason behind the evolution of similar kind of thoughts in different civilizations.
Yes. I also am from that side.
Right. Thank you so much.
Regarding comparison with Parmenides and Plato, with Upanishads, there are really very many similarities and close. But also, it will be good to mention the differences, because the two horses and the chariot is quite different from the Indian presentation. There we speak for the three parts of the soul, which is not actually the senses, and this is different. The Indian illustration is different from the Plato. Now for the Gandhara art, I agree also that Gandhara art was spread the Indian culture, the Buddhist culture spread to Central Asia and to China and to Japan. So it's a kind of globalization, which is we have to accept. Yes, it's spreading because like it's not only the art but also the ideas, like Vajrapani. Vajrapani will be the Hercules, and then it comes to Tibetan culture. We see him there. We see him in Japan also as a protector of the Dharma. So everywhere the ideas are coming and they're spread. So it's a kind of yes, bringing together through Buddhism, bringing together different cultures. So it's a globalization from the Indian side to the East. Yes. Okay. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, sir. Any other question?
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Manisha Tyagi. I am audible.
Yes, please, Manisha.
I just want to ask a very little question. I don't know whether it is connected this or not. Actually, I know very well that I have done my work on Sri Lanka and Sri Lankan art and architecture and all cultural studies basically. So there, I didn't find any example of Gandhara art there. Just completely impressed by in Chola's art and Indian art. So why can Dimitrios sir tell me what were the reasons why we didn't have not a single evidence of art and architecture there? So as I listened that it was like a globalization of that kind of art. So why Sri Lanka was untouched with this art?
Okay, I don't know for the Sri Lanka art many things, but globalization does not meet everywhere in the world.
Oh.
Globalization means it went to Central Asia, Afghanistan, and Japan. Also, we know there is this Ashoka period. In Ashoka period, if you see, there are many Buddhas and also many Greek elements in the art, like grapes and leaves, ivy leaves. So I don't know for Sri Lanka, but it seems to me strange what you say, because in Sri Lanka also there was some Greek influence there. There are Taporbani, we were calling Taporbani, and many Greek travelers went there, and even Kosmas Tokopolevskis, he speaks about the existence of a Greek speaking people there. So it seems that in later times, especially after the Christian times, some Greeks were settled there in Sri Lanka, and some influence will be there. I have not searched about this. I have not done research about Sri Lanka, but since you are expert, how is presented Buddha is not how are his hair and his dress. Might be some Greek elements there. I don't know. How is Buddha depicted in Sri Lanka art?
Okay, we'll search some more evidences. Actually, sir, I've seen that there are so many Buddha statues. It is almost like South Indian art, like. So we didn't find, like, we don't find examples of as Gandhara art is very famous, and it went to many reasons. That's why I asked these questions. Okay, I will search some more evidences there.
Apart of also the Greek symbols are there, like in museum in Bodh Gaya.
Okay.
I have seen the like Pegasus, you know, the horse with the wings, and centaur is there. Some Greek symbols are there, not only the Buddha, but in other arts like Atlas with the Dharma, carrying the Dharma. We see these Greek elements, Hercules, clearly, Vajrapani, Zeus. So several Greek elements are there in Buddhist art, also the pillars. But I don't know about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka art, I don't know the topic.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vasiliadis, sir, and Dr. Manisha Tyagi, for a wonderful question. Any other question from any participant? Any question from the colleagues? Okay, fine. Thank you very much. So we have come to the completion of the first day of this international webinar, and it has been really wonderful and very enlightened, and enriched our knowledge also about the Greek and India. As we know that it has been from the very ancient times that we have roots of different things. While doing my research over asceticism, I could not be able to claim any one country to influence the other. In place of that, I find the similarities more and the parallel system more in both the countries which were together growing at the same place in India as well as in Greece also. So it has been really a wonderful talk, a wonderful audiences we have, all the participants, and I request all of you to join tomorrow also, 3 to 6. We have all the 4 technical sessions tomorrow, and I will post the program as soon as possible today. Then we will going to continue it tomorrow, and day after tomorrow we will have the valedictory session. So I request all of you to be a part of it. And on behalf of History Department, Shahid Mangal Pandey, Government Girls PG College, I would like to thank all the participants, all the delegates, dignitaries, and experts, and our guest speaker, keynote speaker, chief guest, Vasiliadis sir. I really thankful to you all. Thank you.